Welcome to Chinese Novel Audiobook. Chapter 21. Tick, tick. Alan's looked up and saw that his watch was 3 seconds slow. Under normal circumstances, Alan's would never notice this. However, after completing the mission and gaining superpowers, Alan's became different. Ding, congratulations to the host for completing the task of stealing the quantum suit, and you will be rewarded with a superpower lottery. Please ask if the host will draw a prize. Mission generation. Avoid the pursuit from Captain America. Each time you avoid, you will be rewarded by a random draw. This is the prompt sound that the system sounded after Alan's killed the bald leader. Because everything was chaotic in the quantum space before, the system did not determine that Alan's mission was completed. It was not until Alan's appeared in the cave that the long-lost mechanical prompt sound of the Hero Rising system finally sounded in his mind. System, I want to draw the lottery. Alan's decisively began to draw the lottery, with hope and expectation in his eyes, quietly waiting for the results of the lottery. Ding, congratulations to the host for extracting Sarah's superpowers and seeing through the laws of everything. The mechanical sound of the system gradually made Alan smile, and then turned into a wild laugh, with indescribable excitement in his voice. Great, it's really great. As expected, after completing the first task of the system, I will get unimaginable rewards. As expected, my future self failed to complete the first task. Even if I got countless superpowers, I could only condescend to become the Death Star under Thanos, the director of the Universal Family Planning Commission. Ha ha ha, the future is at your fingertips. Alan's raised his right hand with a crazy smile, and clenched his 5 fingers, as if he had grasped his own future. His eyes were shining, and even the telekinesis did not make Alan so happy. The reason why Alan's was so happy was because of Sarah's superpower, which was called seeing through the operating principles of all things. She could see through the operating principles of anything and master it, no matter if it was a superpower or a machine that was so complicated that it made people's heads tingle. Alan's could master it with this ability with just one look. What's more, the most terrifying thing is that when Alan's has mastered the operating principles of a certain ability, the body's genes will make adjustments to allow Alan's to gain the same ability. This is why, in the heroic TV series, the villain Sarah is keen on cutting brains, because all the secrets of the human body are hidden in the brain, and Sarah happens to be able to see through the workings of the superpowers in the brain. Click, click, click. Alan's listened attentively, and the whole person seemed to be standing in a huge and complex mechanical structure. This structure was like an enlarged version of the internal structure of a mechanical watch. Just by listening, Alan's knew which part of the watch on his left wrist was broken. Tick, tick. The index finger of his right hand tapped the dial gently, and the second hand of the watch, which had been motionless, began to jump. Moreover, under the influence of Alan's telekinesis, the minute hand and the hour hand quickly moved to the correct position. When Alan's was surprised by his superpowers, in Kuna Province, Afghanistan, a circle of fiery red rings appeared in the air. In the red ring, 10 black strong men armed to the teeth stepped out. Behind these people, wearing the red, white and blue uniform of Captain America with the stars and stripes, holding the iconic vibranium shield in his right hand, although his face was old, he could still see the calmness of his youth, his eyes were firm, like a man of steel, Captain America Steve Rogers. King, thank you Kamar Taj people for your help. After walking out of the portal, Captain America Rogers turned his head and looked at the portal opposite. Inside the portal was an ancient library. A fat Asian man wearing a monk's robe, with a blank expression on his face, just nodded at Rogers. According to the instrument, the place where Alan's crossed over is here. Captain America Rogers is holding a strange-looking instrument in his hand. A circular map is refreshed on the instrument. In the center of the map, there is a red light spot. This is the quantum suit tracker made by Iron Man in 2023. Because Rogers intends to spend his life with his lover, Iron Man Tony Stark specially made a tracking instrument to prevent the quantum suit from being stolen. However, this instrument can only track the location and time of the quantum suit, and does not have the function of crossing. Captain Rogers, what should we do next? 10 black men, who looked exactly the same, had cold eyes without any emotion, and no expression on their faces. One of them asked Captain Rogers in a flat tone. Surrounding the headquarters of the Jihad organization, I believe our little friend Alan's will be shocked. Rogers, who has lived for decades, has made full preparations after Alan's crossing, and even mobilized the group of hidden wizards in Kamar Taj. Action. Captain Rogers raised the shield in his right hand and walked towards the cave where Aaron's was. Behind Rogers, 10 warriors who looked like Nick Fury followed him without saying a word. All of them had necklace-like devices in their right hands, goggles, tactical combat uniforms, and MT-38 assault rifles in their hands. They quickly surrounded the cave. Ding, ding, ding. In the cave, the imprisoned Tony Stark, with the help of Dr. Ethan, was building the arc reactor. His vest was soaked with sweat. The hot and humid cave made Tony Stark sweat profusely, but his eyes were still focused on hammering the steel material in front of him. The arc reactor was taking shape step by step in Tony Stark's hands, and Tony Stark didn't notice that in the corner, a dark spider was just staring at Tony. As the last 1.5 grams of palladium was extracted, Iron Man gently placed the palladium on the circular device on the table. Quote, with the injection of palladium, the entire circular device began to flash blue light, looking very beautiful and full of technology. This is the first generation of the arc reactor, which Tony Stark built in just one day. Buzz. As Tony Stark built the first generation of the arc reactor, Alan's mind buzzed. His superpower of seeing through the laws of everything instantly let Alan know the principle and production method of the arc reactor. It is indeed a bug-level superpower. After obtaining the superpowers of the villain Sarah, Alan has been studying the definition of seeing through the laws of operation of all things. Sarah used this ability to plunder other people's superpowers, but in the Marvel world, Alan's found that this ability can also do a lot of things, such as seeing through the laws and principles of the operation of the arc reactor. However, these are all external things after all. Only when you are strong yourself can you be truly strong. First of all, you need to improve your physical fitness. Chapter 22. Move, action. Outside the cave, Captain Rogers of the United States led a team of 10 people, advancing towards the entrance of the cave in a trapezoidal shape. Who are you? A member of the Jihad organization who was patrolling the cave was the first to discover these unidentified people. He raised his gun and pointed it at Captain Rogers, questioning him in a localized manner. Fire. Captain Rogers' face was cold, and he waved his right hand. A soldier behind him raised his gun, aimed, and fired. His movements were as smooth as flowing water, and he did it in one go. Swish. The silencer on the assault rifle made the gunshot very weak. A bullet pierced the jihadist's forehead directly. The vicious terrorist was shot in the head and fell to the ground with shock on his face. Keep going, target, Alan's. Captain Rogers' face was cold and wrinkled, with a solemn look on his face. His leadership temperament made him look like a superhero on a mission. Bang, bang, bang. 3 soldiers of the same appearance, height and body shape entered the cave first. As soon as they entered the cave, they ran into several terrorists head-on. These soldiers pulled the trigger directly, and almost all of them shot in the head. Safe. No target found. The soldier standing in the middle tilted his head slightly and put his right hand to his ear. The built-in earphones clearly transmitted the soldier's words to the outside of the cave. Fury team, keep moving forward. Rogers' old face was as firm as ever. Even when facing Thanos, Rogers did not retreat at all, let alone an unknown kid. Alan's, you were just an error when we traveled through time and space. I will not let you destroy the timeline. Rogers whispered to himself. After his quantum suit was stolen by Alan's, Rogers knew that he must stop Alan's. Moreover, Rogers felt that he had an obligation and responsibility to protect the past and the future for his comrades and future Avengers. Shit. In the cave, several jihadist terrorists who were playing cards were frightened out of their wits by the sudden intruders. One of them even cursed. Da. The terror of these terrorists did not cause any emotional fluctuations in the team of 10. The guns in their hands sprayed red fireworks, and these jihad members were directly shot into sieves. Although it was only a team of 10 people, each of these people was the world's top special forces soldier, even stronger than the agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. What's more, these 10 people were the Special Operations Force carefully trained by Captain America. Rogers called it the Fury Team. The Fury Team was a clone soldier trained based on the genetic sample of Nick Fury, the 10th level agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. using the cloning technology of Hydra. Moreover, these clone soldiers did not have much emotion because of the imperfect technology of Hydra, and were like a killing machine. These clone soldiers were originally a crazy experiment of Hydra in order to obtain endless clone warriors, but because of the incomplete technology at the time, the plan was shelved. In 2023, Captain America Rogers restarted the project while in seclusion. Yes, Rogers directly restarted Hydra's, Infinite Soldiers, plan. Of course. Even if Rogers has memories of the future, he still can't perfect this technology, and these clone soldiers still have no emotions, but Rogers has something that others don't have, that is, the super soldier serum. The 10 people who entered the cave were injected with a weakened version of the super soldier serum. Although the weakened version of the serum cannot be compared with the super soldier serum injected by Rogers, it still allows the physical fitness of these clone soldiers to surpass ordinary people, second only to Captain America Rogers. This is also the confidence that Rogers can complete the task this time. Rogers did not travel back simply to spend his life with his lover. Captain America Rogers has come to my house. The ghosts are still there. Alan's had already seen the Fury team invading the cave through the monitor, and turned his head to look in the direction of Tony Stark. Alan's originally wanted to activate the quantum suit and leave, but when Alan's noticed the Fury team, a sound appeared in his mind. Tick, tick, tick. It was like the ticking of a watch's second hand, but it was more beautiful than any music, like the sound of explaining the laws of the operation of all things. A trace of greed appeared in Alan's eyes. Alan's knew what the sound in his mind was. This was a side effect that only occurred after obtaining the superpower of seeing through the laws of the operation of all things. That is, when someone different from an ordinary person approaches or even appears near Alan's superpower will produce a desire to study it and get it. This feeling, it's really wonderful. A hint of intoxication appeared on Alan's face. Although Alan could control this feeling, why should he control it? This feeling really intoxicated Alan, especially when faced with the ability at his fingertips. Alan was even more excited. So, why should he block the voice in his mind? Click. A cold smile appeared on the corner of Alan's mouth, and he tapped the table heavily with his right index finger. Ripples like water waves appeared on the table and spread wildly. Boom, boom, boom. Captain Rogers heard a familiar roar in his ears. He looked up again and the whole sky became dim. In the sky, a giant space battleship was lying over New York City, and the surrounding area had become a devastated New York City. Beside him, the Avengers lay lifeless at his feet. Thanos. No, this is an illusion. Looking at the opposite side again, the original cave disappeared, replaced by Thanos in golden armor, holding the Judgment Blade. The domineering aura of Thanos made Captain Rogers frown, but his eyes were not panicked at all. How about my illusion technique? Perhaps the final battle in the future should have been like this. Alan's voice rang in Rogers' ears, and he couldn't tell the direction, as if it came from all directions. Captain Rogers, this is our first battle. I hope you won't be defeated by me so quickly. Although this may sound like a villain, it doesn't matter. Even if I am a villain, I want to be the most powerful villain, the villain who can dominate the fate of all beings in the universe, just like Thanos. Chapter 23. The unknown cave in Afghanistan was like being pulled into a different dimension. The ordinary cave turned into a ruined New York City block. A huge spaceship in the sky blocked the sunlight and brought the battlefield into a dim environment. The 10 clone warriors who broke into the cave, all members of Fury's team, felt a flash in front of their eyes. The original narrow cave disappeared, replaced by the destroyed New York City battlefield. In front of these 10 people were 10 alien monsters, covered with thick mucus, with sharp teeth, and indescribably hideous and terrifying. Fury Squad, alert. The leading Fury warrior had a cold look in his eyes, raised his right fist, and 10 Fury warriors spread out in a trapezoidal shape, aiming their guns at the suddenly appearing alien monster. Roar. The ferocious and terrifying alien monster at the head roared, and the muscles of its huge limbs trembled, and it quickly rushed towards Fury's team. Fire. Fire. These Fury warriors, because of the defects of clones, have no human emotions. Like robots, they pointed their guns at the alien monster that pounced on them and pulled the trigger directly. Da da da. Rows of bullets quickly hit the monster, and spots of blood appeared on its body. Its huge body was forced back by the storm of bullets. Roar, roar. The other 2 monsters roared and rushed towards the Fury team. The Fury team's reaction nerves had long surpassed ordinary people. The 3 Fury warriors turned around and pointed their guns at the monsters, and flames spewed out of the guns. Swish, swish. However, what made the 3 Fury warriors' pupils shrink was that the 2 monsters penetrated the bullets like phantoms, waving their claws in their right hands and smashing towards the 2 Fury warriors. Is it an illusion? One of the Fury soldiers turned his gun around, pulled out the dagger on his tactical uniform with his left hand, and stabbed the monster quickly, but it went straight through the monster's body. These clone soldiers have very strong synergy. After this Fury soldier tested the monster, another Fury soldier ignored the monster because of the experience of the previous soldier. Bang! The alien monster's strong and powerful right claw smashed down, and the Fury warrior was like being hit by a car. His whole body flew backwards in an instant and hit the dilapidated building on the street. Shit, these monsters are not illusions. One person's experience will give feedback to other Fury warriors. After one of their companions was knocked out, the remaining 9 warriors formed a tactical formation and pulled the trigger expressionlessly. Roar, roar, roar. In the hail of bullets, the alien monsters rushed forward one after another, almost blocking the sight of these Fury warriors. The fierce aura made these clone warriors who had been injected with the weakened version of the super soldier serum have no time to care about anything else. Under the illusion, only Allens could see the real situation. In the narrow corridor, 9 Fury warriors fired frantically. Bullets hit the walls around the corridor, leaving bullet holes. Allens looked down at the only injured Fury warrior lying on the ground. His face was excited and intoxicated, and a wild smile gradually spread across Allens' face. Allens raised his right hand, and his 5 fingers were slightly bent. The Fury warrior who was lying on the ground instantly flew in front of Allens under the effect of telekinesis. Allens directly grabbed the Fury warrior's neck. Tick, tick, tick. The beautiful music in Allens' mind played again, but this time Allen did not pay attention to the sound in his mind, but strode forward and walked towards the direction of Captain America Rogers. Captain Rogers, we meet again. Outside the cave, in front of Rogers, the burly Thanos illusion, holding a judgment blade, looked at Rogers with disdain and said, "No matter how similar it is, it's just an illusion." Rogers, who has fought for his entire life, of course realized that the Thanos in front of him was just an illusion, but what shocked Rogers was that whether it was vision, hearing, or even feeling, the Thanos in front of him was extremely real, and it had even begun to affect his sense of touch. I should have purified this universe. If it weren't for you damn Avengers, I would have been enjoying my retirement life in my own backyard. Thanos strode forward, his tone cold and filled with endless anger. He picked up his judgment blade with his right hand, spun it into a windmill in his hand, and then slashed at Rogers. Swish. Rogers could even feel the air under the judgment blade being split in two. The sharp air turbulence cut Rogers' cheeks painfully. The sword above his head inevitably reminded Rogers of the difficult battle with Thanos. Facing Thanos. Attack. Rogers closed his eyes. Since it was an illusion, as long as he closed his eyes, the illusion would no longer exist. Boom. Thanos' judgment blade hit Rogers, and a terrifying force burst out instantly, sending Rogers flying backwards. Ahem. How is that possible? Rogers' internal organs were slightly dislocated, and a look of pain appeared on his face. He was caught off guard by the overwhelming force, and even Rogers, who had a physical fitness far superior to that of an ordinary person, could not endure it. A trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Telekinesis. Rogers didn't believe that an illusion could hit him. Excluding the illusion, only Allen's telekinesis remained. As expected of Captain Rogers, you saw through it so quickly, but in a world full of illusions, what is real and what is fake? Aaron's voice came from all directions again. Following Aaron's voice, the 5 Black Orders appeared from a cloud of smoke behind Thanos. Ebony Maw, one of the 5 Black Orders, raised his finger, and in front of Rogers, the soil on the ground turned into sharp earth spikes. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Under the command of Ebony Maw, the earth spikes instantly accelerated and attacked Rogers like a rainstorm. Facing the large-scale attack in front of him, Captain Rogers had to raise his shield to defend himself even though he knew that the earth spikes in front of him were an illusion. After all, Captain Rogers had suffered a loss from Allen's once. The earth spikes hit the vibranium shield one by one and disappeared like bubbles. Allen's, who was hiding under the illusion, had a sneer on his face. Boom. Behind Rogers, the burly black dwarf swung his axe with a cold glow in his hand and chopped down. The sound of the wind breaking was so real that Rogers had no way of telling whether it was real or fake. You are old after all, Captain Rogers. Allen's telekinesis burst out, and Rogers, who had just turned around, was immediately knocked out. The black dwarf attack in front was just an illusion. The real attack was behind Rogers. Swish. Rogers, who was knocked away, felt the surrounding scene changing madly, as if he had fallen into a time dimension, like he was on a speeding train, taking Rogers into a deep illusion world. When it comes to illusions, I am better than Mysterio. Alan showed a cold smile on his face. The superpower illusion technique is more real than the projection of Mysterio in the future, and with the help of Alan's telekinesis, even Captain America can only run around in a hurry. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 24. The surrounding scenes became like a roller coaster, flashing by rapidly. In these scenes, Rogers even saw countless younger versions of himself. It was as if he had fallen into an endless time dimension. That feeling made Rogers feel a little nauseous. Shit, that guy Alan's is more difficult than I thought. Dragged into the deep illusion world by Alan's illusion, Rogers looked at the extremely real but very chaotic scenes around him, and a trace of fear appeared in his determined eyes. For Rogers, who has experienced the final battle, Thanos and the Dark Order Legion he led are visible enemies, while Alan's attacks are invisible, which is also Rogers' biggest headache. Boom, boom, boom. In the world full of illusions, Captain America Rogers could only run around in a hurry. Various enemies came one after another, including the Red Skull, Hydra agents, the Black Order, Thanos, and even the Avengers. Moreover, the attacks of the illusions were mixed with the terrifying telekinesis of Aaron's. Even the battle-hardened Captain Rogers was hit so hard that he vomited blood, and his uniform was torn. How about this, Captain Rogers? Can you still resist in this situation? In front of Rogers, a Red Skull appeared. The man in Nazi uniform was the Red Skull. At this time, the Red Skull's voice was unusually cold and evil, and his tone was full of ridicule for Rogers. Ahem, I can still spend another day with you. Rogers wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. His eyes were firm and cold, and at the same time, a bracelet with a Black Panther pattern on Rogers' right wrist instantly burst into a ball of light. Come and try Wakanda's high-tech gun. The light disappeared, and a silver-white, very streamlined gun appeared in Rogers' hand. This was a high-tech weapon that Rogers secretly bought from the rebellious brother of the current king of Wakanda. Swish! The silver-white high-tech gun quickly charged, and a ball of faint blue light gathered at the muzzle. The direction the muzzle was pointing at was exactly where Alan's was. Damn it! Seeing the direction the gun was pointed at, Alan's face changed drastically, and his eyes were full of surprise. Alan's had never thought that in this world full of illusions, Rogers could still find him. Boom! A dark blue beam burst out, and Alan's only had time to block his telekinesis in front of him before his whole body was blown away. Bang, bang! The high-tech weapon from Wakanda hit the telekinetic force. With a huge burst of kinetic energy, Alan's body pierced through two walls in succession and hit a jihadist terrorist heavily. Ahem, he is indeed worthy of being Rogers' Wuwukai. He spat out large mouthfuls of blood. Although Alan's telekinetic defense was very strong, his body was still that of an ordinary person. Compared with Rogers, it was still too fragile. Even with the telekinesis to reduce the buffer, Alan's internal organs still had faint ruptures. The injuries on his body made it impossible for Alan's to get up. The feeling of being controlled by an illusion is really terrible. Alan's was injured, and the illusion that enveloped Rogers suddenly disappeared. Rogers finally saw the real world again. He was extremely uncomfortable being controlled by Alan's illusion before. Gently bending down to pick up the vibranium shield that fell beside him, Rogers' eyes flashed, and he walked quickly in the direction of Alan's. Boy, no matter how you know the future, I have won now. I will take the quantum suit. Rogers walked towards Alan's with a look of confidence on his face. In Rogers' view, Alan's, who was lying on the ground and unable to get up, was no longer a threat. Ahem, Captain Rogers, do you think you won? Alan's looked up at Rogers, a cold smile appeared on the corner of his mouth, and the corner of his eyes looked at the Fury warrior who had fallen to the side and had been controlled by Alan's telekinesis. Our competition. It's just the beginning, Rogers. I haven't lost yet. Alan's right index finger moved obscurely, and his telekinesis directly enveloped the unconscious Fury warrior. Fury warrior slid and appeared 3 meters away from Alan's, and the angle was just in Rogers' blind spot. You future superheroes, when you travel through time, have you ever thought about how the past time and space will change after you travel through time? Alan's voice was magical, which made Captain Rogers think about it. This also temporarily dispelled the idea of ending Alan's life directly. Swish, swish, swish. Alan's eyes flashed with deep eyes, and his right index finger moved horizontally. The unconscious Fury warrior was directly cut open from the temple by invisible telekinesis. Along the forehead, Alan's neatly cut open the Fury warrior's skull. Tick, tick. As the skull was cut open, the beautiful sound in Alan's mind sounded again, and Alan's eyes looked at the exposed brain of the Fury warrior. The whole brain was completely exposed to the air. Alan's eyes slowly moved through the intricate folds of the cerebral cortex, as if he was looking at a precise drawing, passing through the left brain, the right brain, and gradually focusing on the brain stem, and staying on a point. Found it, this is it. The secret of the super soldier serum. Are you sure you want to know the secret of the super soldier serum? Alan showed an extremely arrogant smile on his face. His superpower, the ability to see through the laws governing the operation of all things, was fully utilized. Just now, Alan knew how the super soldier serum worked on Warrior Fury. Just like a genetic code or a blueprint, Alan easily understood the laws governing the operation of the super soldier serum in the human body. At the same time, Alan clearly felt that the voices in his head became more beautiful, and his mind was undergoing earth-shaking changes. The first thing was that Alan's brain nerve center began to produce a peculiar brain circuit structure, which was exactly the same as the one in Warrior Fury's brain before. Then this newly generated brain circuit began to release terrifying electric current signals. The first thing to be affected was that Alan's body cells were dividing and reorganizing crazily, and the muscles and bones of the entire body were undergoing crazy transformation. I succeeded. Chapter 25. Crack, crack. Just as Captain Rogers was thinking about what Alan had said before, a clear sound of bones snapping awakened Rogers. The sound of bones snapping like popping beans instantly accelerated Rogers' pace. After crossing the two destroyed walls, Rogers saw something that shocked him inexplicably, but also horrified him. Alan, who was originally lying on the ground, was undergoing a crazy transformation, and next to Alan, a corpse with a skull separated was lying quietly on the ground. Judging from his face, it was the Fury warrior he brought with him. Shit, what happened? Seeing such a horrifying scene, even Captain Rogers was shocked. After all, he had seen many people die, but he had never seen such a death where the skull was cut open and the brain was exposed and spilled all over the floor. While Rogers was shocked, Alan's height was growing rapidly. His originally thin and weak body was growing rapidly. In the blink of an eye, he became a 1.9-meter tall man. His body was filled up like an inflatable. The first thing to be affected was the two huge pectoral muscles and the 6 standard abdominal muscles. The muscle tissue of his limbs expanded. Crack, crack. Alan's transformation was taking place at a speed visible to the naked eye. Captain Rogers could clearly hear the sound of Alan's bones crackling like popping beans. Because of the swelling of his muscles, Alan's original clothes burst instantly, and his pants turned into shorts. Is this kid's body evolving? Captain Rogers' heart, which had been calm since the final battle, was now in turmoil. He realized that he had underestimated Alan's. If Alan really had the ability to deprive others of their abilities as Rogers thought, then, although Alan was still very weak now, in time, Alan could even grow into a terrifying existence that surpassed Thanos. Is this the feeling of being full of power? This is just a weakened version of the super soldier serum. Alan clenched his fist, and his whole body was filled with a sense of power, making Alan feel that he could easily kill a cow with one punch, and it was indeed the case. Alan even initially estimated that his regular strength reached 5 to 8 tons, and his speed reached 320 meters per second. In terms of speed, it has surpassed the car. His nerve reaction, endurance, and self-healing ability have all exceeded the limits of normal people. It can be said that from now on, Alan's body has surpassed ordinary people and reached a level close to Captain America Rogers. Finally, I have completely gotten rid of my mortal body. His eyes were full of divine light. The transformation of his body made Alan still have a wild and excited smile on his face. He exerted a little force on his body, and rushed to Captain Rogers like a cheetah. He bent his arms and clenched his fists, and the muscles of his whole body were compressed crazily. A simple straight punch made the air explode with a dull sound. Bang! Facing Alan's attack, the battle-hardened Rogers remained calm, and his reaction speed was faster than Alan's, who had just become a super soldier. He stretched out his right hand and caught Alan's right fist. At the same time, he raised his shield with his left hand and hit Alan's with a powerful shield strike. Bang! Facing the vibranium shield, Alan's eyes were full of fear. The telekinetic barrier unfolded and blocked the vibranium shield. The huge force made Alan step back a few steps, but Rogers was not feeling well either. Although the energy absorption property of the vibranium shield prevented Rogers from being hurt, Alan flew backwards and grabbed Rogers' right arm with his right hand. With a powerful blow, Rogers' right hand did not have a vibranium shield, so it smashed directly on the wall behind him. Mind controls objects. He opened his right hand, and even more terrifying mind power swept out like a tide, like a mountain pressing down on Rogers. Even with Rogers' super soldier's physical fitness, he couldn't break free in an instant. Alan's, don't be stubborn anymore, you are destroying the stability of the future. Even though he was bound by Alan's telekinesis, Rogers' eyes were still full of compassion and determination for the future. Rogers' tone was still full of justice and the spirit of a leader. Ha ha ha, Captain Rogers, destroying the stability of the future. You are worthy of being the spirit of America, the embodiment of justice. However, I have seen your future before. On the basis of your future stability, there are tens of millions of broken timelines. Tell me, how to get to the future, you said. Alan's laughed, but his face turned cold. No one knew better than Alan's that this world was a multiverse, and even now there were multiple time streams. It was extremely difficult to reach the future where Rogers existed. Even Alan's felt that Rogers knew it as well. We are saving the future and saving the world. Facing Aaron's questioning, Rogers' face did not change at all. Once the concept in his heart is formed, it is difficult to change, not to mention this steel-like Captain America. Take your justice and say goodbye to this world, my dear. Mr. Rogers, Captain America. Aaron's raised his left hand and pointed his index finger at Rogers' forehead. His sharp mind power was so sharp that even Rogers' physical strength could not resist it. Shish, shish. Alan's left hand slowly moved to the right. As Alan's moved, drops of blood flowed from Rogers' forehead, and a thin crimson line began to cut along Rogers' skull. Tick, tick. Drops of blood flowed from Rogers' forehead and dripped onto the ground. The pain in his head made Rogers frown, and his muscles tensed, like a terrifying beast awakening. Rogers slowly raised his right hand. Illusion. Alan's didn't want the duck in his hand to fly away, so he directly released the illusion spell on Rogers, who was about to break free. Layers of illusions impacted Rogers' mind and pulled Rogers into the world of illusion. Very good, Mr. Rogers, your super soldier serum. It's mine. Alan's turned his head, his eyes cold, his left hand moving towards the right unwaveringly. As long as he could become stronger, Alan's didn't mind becoming a super criminal, or even killing superheroes. Boom. Just as Alan's was about to finish cutting off Rogers' brain, the wall behind Alan's was smashed open by a huge force, and then a huge copper-skinned Iron Man, as heavy as an oversized can, emerged from the wall, aiming the flamethrower in his left hand at Alan's, spraying out scorching flames. Chapter 26. Boom. The wall behind Alan's was violently blown open, and a tin can man walked out of the broken wall. In the tin can, the dirty Tony Stark looked tired, but his eyes were full of confidence. Damn bitch, taste the wrath of Tony Stark. Tony Stark, who had been tortured by the terrorists for a long time and had a mental breakdown, raised his left hand without thinking twice, and the flamethrower on his left hand burst into a scorching flame. Boom. The scorching flames made Alan's face darken. The temperature behind him was rising rapidly, and Alan's could even feel the burning sensation on his back. This forced Alan's to temporarily give up on cutting off Rogers' brain. He slightly turned sideways, and his left hand burst out with telekinesis. Pong. The telekinesis was like an invisible wall, instantly freezing the flame in midair. Alan's turned his head and looked at the steel can behind him. WTF, is this guy a magician? Hey, man, I admit your magic is great, but please respect science. At this moment, Tony Stark in the iron armor widened his eyes and cursed instantly. It was this magical scene that shocked Tony Stark, who always believed in science. However, even though he was shocked, Tony Stark's mouth was still very poisonous. Alan's tapped his finger lightly, and the flame that had been stagnant in the air instantly rolled back, and the scorching temperature wrapped the tin can. Buzz, buzz, buzz. It was just that the crudely made Mark I armor had no fireproof and heat insulating system. The temperature in the entire armor soared rapidly. Tony Stark was sweating profusely, as if he was in a furnace. The Mark I armor beside him was ringing the alarm frantically. Shit. Tony Stark, who was trapped in the iron sheet, cursed with a trace of fear in his eyes. He swore that if he could survive this time, he would definitely build a high-tech steel armor, and the heat insulation system was the most basic standard. Whoosh. Because of Tony Stark's sudden appearance, Captain Rogers had a chance to catch his breath. His muscles swelled, and he violently broke through Alan's telekinesis. He threw the vibranium shield in his left hand directly at Alan's telekinetic barrier. Faced with the vibranium shield, Alan's had no choice but to give up telekinesis and turn his telekinesis into an invisible wall to block in front of him. Pong! Captain America Rogers' most deadly weapon is the vibranium shield in his hand. This strongest metal on Earth that absorbs energy makes Aaron's want to curse. Ahem, damn, he really gets stronger the more he fights. He was knocked away by the vibranium shield again, but this time, Alan simply turned over and landed steadily on the ground. Opposite Alan's was Grandpa Rogers holding the shield again. Da, da, da. Behind Rogers, the remaining 9 Fury warriors ran over quickly, pointing their guns at Alan's. A flash of light flashed on their right wrists, and then a spear appeared in each of their hands. Shit, is this Wakanda technology again? Alan's looked at the Fury warriors with a gloomy face, and watched Rogers use a flying shield to knock the tin can out of the range of the flames. This time it was Alan's turn to fall into a passive position. Fury squad, attack. Rogers grabbed the flying vibranium shield again, looked at Alan's with cold eyes, and gave the order. Following Rogers' order, the 9 Fury warriors who had been injected with the weakened version of the super soldier serum directly abandoned their ordinary guns, picked up the Wakanda-made spears, and rushed towards Alan's. Bang, bang, bang. Facing the oncoming Fury warrior, Alan's raised his right hand and used his telekinesis to control the various stones on the ground under his feet to float in the air, like bullets, attacking the oncoming Fury warrior. Energy shield. Faced with Alan's telekinetic control, these Fury warriors directly raised their spears and triggered a button on the spears. A huge energy shield instantly popped out from the spears. Boom, boom, boom. The rocks that were faster than bullets hit the energy shield, causing only a few ripples. Wakanda's technological level was hundreds of years ahead of the Earth. It was simply a country with cheats. F******K. This time, Aaron's cursed thoroughly. Now, facing Wakanda's high technology, Captain America and 9 weakened Captain Americas, he still had some difficulty. Illusion. Alan's looked at the Fury warriors charging forward with energy shields, Rogers rushing over with vibranium shields, and Tony Stark in a steel can in the distance, with small grenades popping out of his shoulders. Alan's directly released the illusion, and the surrounding caves were directly dragged into the world of illusion. Captain Rogers, finally, I will give you a great gift. Alan smiled and took out a blasting button with his right hand. The whole cave began to explode. Alan's had ordered people to bury the explosives when he took control of the Jihad organization. Boom, boom, boom. Layers of flames blew the cave beyond recognition. Rogers and others, immersed in the illusion world, could not see where the explosion occurred. Retreat, protect Tony Stark. Feeling the ground shaking, although Rogers didn't know what happened, his sixth sense from many battles allowed him to react correctly instantly. Captain Rogers, I may surprise you the next time we meet. A cold smile appeared on the corner of Alan's mouth, and his quantum suit flashed with light. His whole body became smaller than an ant, and finally entered the quantum space. Boom boom. After Alan's left, the entire cave collapsed instantly. In the flames of the explosion, a steel can rose from the ground and rushed into the air, away from the center of the explosion. Then the entire battle armor disintegrated in midair. Ahem, Alan's, next time, I won't let you escape again. As the flames of the explosion faded, an arm stretched out from under a stone in the cave that had become a ruin. Captain America Rogers crawled out in a panic and stood on the ruins, looking into the distance. Rogers' eyes were full of anger. The remaining 9 Fury warriors died in the sea of fire in order to protect Tony Stark. Ding, ding. Rogers wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and took out the quantum suit tracker from his pocket. Looking at the time displayed on the tracker, Rogers frowned slightly. Chapter 27. In 2014, 2 years after the Battle of New York, the Hydra organization was completely exposed. The Hydra organization, led by Dr. Zola, launched the Insight Project. Since then, SHIELD and Hydra have started a fierce battle, and the entire aerospace carrier has been completely reduced to ruins. The once notorious Hydra organization has completely turned over. One by one, the Hydra's secret bases have begun to surface and appear in the eyes of the public, while SHIELD has quietly lurked and hidden under the world. After the Insight Project, the whole world has become a battlefield between SHIELD and Hydra. However, compared with the Hydra all over the world, S.H.I.E.L.D. is somewhat dwarfed. There are only a few big cats and small cats in total. Under the leadership of the current S.H.I.E.L.D. director Coulson, they formed the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents to secretly maintain world peace. At this time, in the secret base of S.H.I.E.L.D., a man wearing a well-fitting suit, with a receding hairline and a friendly smile on his face, is standing in front of a high-tech tablet with a three-dimensional image. This man is the role model of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, the new S.H.I.E.L.D. director Phil Coulson with a legendary experience. However, Coulson is now frowning. The recent unusual movements of Hydra have made Coulson alert. Several satellites in the sky have been monitoring these Hydras, but Coulson still cannot find out why these people want to get the 084 item. Director Coulson, are you still studying the 084 file? When Coulson frowned and studied the intelligence in front of him, a girl with smooth blonde hair was very beautiful, perfectly inheriting the beauty of Eastern and Western women. She was wearing a tight combat suit, which made her look heroic, and perfectly set off the beauty of this girl. She was really a stunner. Sky, haven't you rested yet? Turning around, Coulson showed his signature smile, his eyes full of concern for Sky. Director Coulson, have you forgotten that Sky is about to go out on a mission? Behind Sky, a cold-faced female agent named Melinda May came out, looking at Coulson with a trace of scrutiny and concern, and reminded him. Sorry, I've been a little busy lately. It's the deal in Alexandria, right? Coulson patted his forehead apologetically, his face became serious, and his eyes became deep. These were some tricks Coulson learned from Nick Fury, the former director of S.H.I.E.L.D. The deep eyes can bring dignity and mystery to people. Former S.H.I.E.L.D. Agent Browning will sell intelligence in 3 days. The content of the intelligence is No. 084. Sky's eyes were serious. Now Sky has become a qualified S.H.I.E.L.D. agent and can complete the tasks assigned by Coulson very well. Very good, let's hurry up and set up defenses in 3 days. Coulson nodded and began to formulate a battle plan for 3 days later. The main plan was to use Agent Browning to attract the attention of Hydra agents. In an alley in Virginia, the whole space was rippling, and a figure in a white quantum battle suit quickly grew larger and finally landed on the ground. Is this the year 2014? He turned his head and looked around. Virginia is located on the Atlantic coast of the eastern United States. Compared to New York, Virginia seems to be much less populated. However, compared to the buildings in 2008, 2014 seems to be more prosperous. Allens walked out of the quantum space and took a quick look at his body. A three-dimensional console appeared on the left hand of the quantum battle suit. Allens simply operated the console twice, and the entire quantum battle suit detached from Allens' body and turned into a keychain size, which Allens hung around his neck. The quantum field is not traversable at will. The disordered and chaotic state in the quantum space is enough to fundamentally erase anyone who enters it. Even if you have a quantum battle suit, you cannot traverse it at will. Inhumans, here I come. A deep smile appeared on the corner of Allens' mouth, his eyes flickered, and his sight swept across his left wristwatch and cast his gaze on the street ahead. He walked out of the alley and passed by a clothing store. Looking at the black suits in the window of the clothing store, Allen hooked his right hand, and the black suits in the window immediately broke through the window. Not bad. He put on a black suit to cover up his perfect muscular body. As for the clothing store behind him, Allens had already released an illusion before he started, covering the clothing store. The sound of glass breaking before did not reach the clothing store at all. There is no doubt that Rogers must know the time when I traveled through time. In this case, I need to hide for a while. Allens' eyes flickered, and his whole body changed. The illusion covered his body. At this time, Allens turned into an ordinary Westerner and walked into the crowd calmly. Rogers, this time, I will never let you stop my plan. Allens' face was cold. In 2014, according to Allens' previous memory, the Terrigen crystal reappeared in the world at this time, which was the most active period of the Inhumans. And each Inhuman had a superpower. Da. While Allens was thinking, a fashionable figure wearing a short skirt and high heels flashed past Allens' sight. The beauty with a devilishly sexy figure walked into a bar. Interesting, I seem to have found a suitable agent. The Inhumans are in my pocket after all. Allens' eyes followed the figure of the beauty and stopped at the door of the bar. His eyes were full of amusement. Even in Allens' mind, the mechanical rhythm that saw through the laws of operation of all things sounded again. Beautiful music. It will also be a wonderful hunting trip. The suit on Alan's body instantly turned into a pitch-black hooded robe like thick fog. This was the first time Alan's used illusion to wrap himself. Alan's found that his illusion was much more advanced and convenient than the future Mysterio's three-dimensional projection illusion. In Alice's bar, the sexy beauty Rena, who once fanatically pursued clairvoyance, was sitting in a corner, looking at the red wine in the glass with fascination. Rena once believed that she was different from others. With her own efforts, Rena finally came into contact with a mysterious supernatural figure, clairvoyance, whom she once fanatically pursued. She thought that clairvoyance must be an extremely powerful superpower, but in the end she was disappointed. Clairvoyance was just an agent of the Hydra organization named John Garrett. He had no superpowers at all. He just relied on the intelligence of Hydra to control himself. Now John Garrett is dead, and Rena still believes that she is different from others in her heart. A few days ago, Rena met a madman, a murderer, who told Rena that there is a magical item that can enable Rena to open her hidden talent. This thing is called the obelisk. Chapter 28. After all, I am different. As long as I find the obelisk, the killer will be able to lead me to unlock my own talent. Sitting in the corner of Alice's bar, the noisy atmosphere did not affect Rena. Looking at the red wine on the table absent-mindedly, Rena found that she seemed to be a little shaken. Rena did not think that Mr. Hyde, Sky's father, was a good partner. She was just simply pursuing power beyond humans. For this reason, Rena did not mind who her partner was. However, whether it was the secret of the obelisk or the power that Rena desired, she had not obtained it until now. This made Rena couldn't help but doubt herself a little. Maybe she was just an ordinary person. Swish. Just as Rena was distracted, her eyes unconsciously looked across from her seat. Then her eyes widened, and she saw a person wearing a pitch-black hooded robe appeared on the empty chair. Who are you? Compared to ordinary people, Rena's reaction was much calmer. After a brief shock, Rena's face returned to calm. Ding! Irons ignored Rena's questioning and simply tapped the table with his index finger. The scene around the two people changed instantly. The original bar turned into the deep space of the universe. Planets of various colors retreated madly in Rena's eyes, and replaced by an extremely beautiful planet. Where is this? Shocked beyond words by the beautiful scenery before her, Rena suddenly found herself on a very beautiful planet, surrounded by lush trees and flowers. Rena looked at the mysterious man in front of her with doubtful eyes. Alien planet, the specific name is unknown, but in the future, it has a famous name, the back garden for retirement. Surrounding him is an environment like a paradise, and Alan's eyes are shining. This is an illusion created by Alan's based on his impression. The prototype is the back garden used for retirement after Thanos snapped his fingers. Alien planet. Rena, who had always dreamed of being unique and special, suddenly heard about the alien planet, and her eyes lit up. Although she did not trust the mysterious man in front of her, there was no doubt that the alien planet presented by the mysterious man aroused Rena's interest. Don't limit yourself to the Earth, the universe is huge, and the obelisk you are looking for is just the product of the alien Kree's experiment on Earth. Alan's didn't hide anything at all. To Alan's, the Terrigen crystal was just a dispensable thing. What was really precious to Alan's was the Inhumans transformed by the Terrigen. Why did you tell me? Rena's face could no longer conceal her inner shock. Her sixth sense told her that what the mysterious man said might really be the truth about the obelisk. She had been pursuing the obelisk, hoping to use the power of this mythical item to make herself unique. Therefore, she also had some understanding of the obelisk. However, what shocked and curious Rena was why the mysterious man in front of her told her such important information. Rena, who was born cautious and vigilant, did not trust the mysterious man in front of her. The obelisk is not important, it is the people, the unique ones, that are important. You have always firmly believed in your heart that you are unique and different from ordinary people. Lena, you are right, you are indeed unique, but you are not the only one who is unique. In this universe, there are many races, including the Eternals who are born eternal, the high-tech Kree, and many strange creatures. Don't limit yourself to the Earth. Follow me, and you will be unique in this universe. Alan's voice was full of magic, as if it could penetrate people's hearts. With just a few simple words, he described the magnificence of the universe, which made Rena completely excited. Even if you use the power of the obelisk to activate the inhuman genes in your body, you can only gain the ability to predict the future. However, if you follow me, you will gain the power to dominate the world and the Earth. Alan stretched out his right hand and gently touched Reina's beautiful face, with confidence in Alan's unique charm in his tone. How is it possible? Can I only get the power to predict the future? Even if she didn't want to believe it, her sixth sense made Reina believe that maybe what the mysterious man in front of her said was true. Tell me your purpose. Even though she was attracted by the future described by Alan's, Reina was still alert and looked at Alan's with scrutiny, questioning him. The obelisk is not important, what is important is the person. I can get any ability I want, and you will be a good assistant. A smile appeared on the corner of Alan's mouth, and what he said made Reina stunned for a moment, then Reina leaned over slightly and smelled the fragrance of the flowers. The refreshing fragrance made Reina smile. I agree to your cooperation, but you need to let me see that you have the power to achieve my future. Reina had a sexy smile on her face, looking like an angel at this moment, but only Alan's knew that Reina in front of him did not surrender willingly. However, it didn't matter. After seeing his power, with Reina's personality, she would definitely worship him as a god. Find Carl Creel, and I will prove to you that following me will be your brightest future. A smile appeared on the corner of Alan's mouth, and he tapped the table with his right index finger. The surrounding environment disappeared instantly, and Reina was once again in Alice's bar. Mysterious power, mysterious people, hope. You can make me truly transformed. Looking at the empty seat, Reina's eyes showed a ball of light. As an ordinary person, Reina, who has been dealing with S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra, is very clear. The importance of leveraging momentum. Before, Reina was very obsessed with clairvoyance. That power of seeing through everything and controlling everything was simply like a god on earth. However, after experiencing a series of things, Reina was also cautious about choosing a partner. Carl Creel. I'll wait and see. She stood up gracefully, and her sexy figure attracted the attention of people around her. Even women could not resist Reina's charm. She smiled at the people around her and disappeared in the bar. Chapter 29. In a dilapidated cabin in Alexandria, former S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, Browning, walked in with a box in his hand and a vigilant look. In the cabin, there was a man and a woman. The man was wearing a black suit and the woman was dressed in a sexy beauty. These two people were Idaho and Hartley, agents working for S.H.I.E.L.D. Hey, look at our predecessor, he actually sold out S.H.I.E.L.D. intelligence to survive. Hartley, how about we help Agent Browning out as a favor? As soon as Browning walked into the cabin, Idaho started to mock him with a playful look on his face. Although they were just two people hired by Coulson, they were now in the same S.H.I.E.L.D. camp, so Idaho looked down on the former S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Browning. Humph, if it weren't for S.H.I.E.L.D., how could my identity be exposed? Now I have to avoid not only Hydra's pursuit, but also the military's pursuit. What do you damn mercenaries know? Browning mocked back with a cold face. Just as Browning said, because of the existence of the Insight Project, the identities of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents have been completely exposed to the public and have become rats crossing the street. On the contrary, because Hydra controls most of the power, they are doing very well. Agent Browning, hand over the intelligence on 084. Hartley walked up to Browning, looked at him coldly, and said according to the instructions in the headset. Where is my $5 million? Browning did not intend to hand over the intelligence of 084 so easily. After all, he was like a rat crossing the street now. The $5 million in this transaction was enough to make him bid farewell to his life of escape. Since when did Agent Browning become so timid that he even brought a bodyguard with him? Idaho's eyes were still full of mockery. After Agent Browning entered the cabin, a bodyguard in a suit followed him in. I've always been alone. The Idaho agent's words made Browning look back in confusion. As soon as he turned back, he saw the man in the black suit behind him, striding towards him, and his skin became as hard as stone. Bang! The bodyguard punched Agent Browning's head, causing it to explode. The man walked past Browning indifferently, bent down, and picked up the box in Browning's hand. Shit, the intelligence is wrong, the intelligence is wrong, there is a third party involved, and it is initially suspected to be Hydra. Although Hartley was dressed like a beautiful woman, as an agent, his reaction speed was very fast. While reporting to Coulson, he pulled out his pistol and pulled the trigger. Bang, bang, bang. Bullets hit the man's body, but only knocked out some stone chips. The strong black man ignored the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent and left quickly with the box. Bitch. Watching the black man walking away, the two S.H.I.E.L.D. agents were completely helpless, and even Coulson, the new director of S.H.I.E.L.D. who had been remotely controlling the agency, was silent at this moment. Sky, May, collect the enemy's stone tissue samples and keep a close eye on this guy. As the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., Coulson reacted instantly and notified agents Sky and May who were in a car in the distance. Got it. May pressed her right hand on her ear, turned on the communicator, and stepped on the accelerator, chasing after the fleeing man. I got it, and it's time for you to fulfill your promise. The fleeing man took out a palm-sized communicator from his pocket. The communicator showed a Hydra agent. Carl Creel, deliver 84's intelligence to the designated location. Someone is already waiting. A cold voice appeared in the communicator. At the same time, around the wooden house, cars drove quickly and stopped around the wooden house. One by one, the elite agents of Hydra jumped out of the cars. Shit, it's Hydra. May punched the steering wheel, slammed the brakes, and opened the car door with Sky and jumped out at the same time. Boom. As May and Sky jumped out of the car, a huge explosion sounded behind them. It turned out that a Hydra agent used a grenade to directly blow up Sky's car. Bang, bang, bang. Without much time to react, May and Sky exchanged fire with the Hydra. Behind Sky, 2 mercenary agents, Hartley and Idaho, also arrived. However, the 4 of them were no match for the Hydra. They were suppressed by the enemy and dared not show their heads. Temporarily retreat, repeat, temporarily retreat. Coulson, who was commanding remotely in the base from a distance, also had a grim expression on his face and directly issued the order to retreat. He didn't want his only remaining elite agent to have any more mishaps. It's really lively. Not far from Alexandria, 2 figures appeared. One of them was a sexy beauty standing silently beside a man covered in a black hooded robe. These 2 people were Raina and Allens. The 2 of them were now in a simple cooperative relationship. The reason was that Raina did not trust Allens. However, it didn't matter. Allens had found what he was looking for. Hey, show me your strength. Looking at Allens who was watching the show, Raina frowned slightly, but her tone was faintly excited. Raina wanted to get to know this new partner carefully. Although he was covered in a robe, Raina could still see Allens's appearance clearly, or rather, Allens didn't have much to hide. It's not the right time yet. Allens's eyes were deep. It was not the right time to hunt Carl Krill. After all, Allens still wanted to let Carl Krill grow up a little. Let's go to Paxton Park. Don't you want the obelisk? Allens glanced at Rena and a playful smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Rena beside him was a talent, so Allens did not intend to give up easily. And everything was just like the plot of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that Allens had seen before. In order to get the obelisk, S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra did their best, and the only one who could touch the obelisk without being hurt temporarily was the absorbing man, Carl Krill. However, although Hydra is powerful, Coulson also has a lot of high-tech equipment. At the S.H.I.E.L.D. base, Fitz, a brain-injured S.H.I.E.L.D. scientist, found a way to temporarily restrain Krill's superpowers. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 30. May, keep an eye on Krill at all times. Remember, you can only monitor him, don't alert him. In the Airbus base of S.H.I.E.L.D., Coulson, whose hairline has receded significantly, said with a serious expression and a steady gaze. Yes, sir. In the Alexander block, Agent May rode a motorcycle and followed a red and white pickup truck at high speed. Inside the pickup truck, Carl Krill looked panicked. On Krill's right arm, a crystal-clear crystal was embedded in his arm, and Krill's entire arm had turned into rubber. Damn it, damn it. Krill's face was livid, his eyes were full of fear, and he punched the steering wheel. He had gone through untold hardships and finally completed the task assigned by Hydra, but what made Krill angry was that this damn 084 was actually offsetting his ability, or in other words, his ability could not devour and transform this substance. Back in his cabin, Carl Krill looked panicked. While contacting Hydra, he tried to release his ability. His whole body was changing rapidly, stone, rubber, steel, but without exception, Carl Krill still could not devour the obelisk. Damn it, answer the phone quickly. Carl Krill took out a mobile phone from the corner of his HUD and dialed the number quickly. He seemed to be irritable and excited. Paxton Park, bring the obelisk here, and your mission is complete. The cold and ruthless voice of the Hydra agent sounded in the communicator, which made Carl Krill's eyes even more irritable, but Carl Krill, who had been successfully brainwashed, could not resist the orders of Hydra at all. Not far from Krill's cabin, Melinda May, an elite agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., was operating a high-tech monitor. The monitor clearly transmitted the conversation between Carl Krill and S.H.I.E.L.D. Paxton Park. We finally caught a big fish. Sky, Trip, Hunter, go to Paxson Park to set up defenses. In the Airbus Shield base, Coulson's eyes flashed with excitement. After so many days of deployment, they were finally able to close the net. This time, the person who would hand over to Carl Creel would definitely be a high-ranking member of Hydra. However, just as Coulson's order was passed down, the android agent Koenig in the base came over with a serious look in his eyes. Coulson, there is a guy on line 1 who claims to be your old friend and wants to talk to you. Agent Koenig looked at Coulson with a hint of seriousness on his short and fat face. Facing Coulson's questioning eyes, Koenig shrugged slightly. Coulson clicked on the communicator in front of him and picked up the phone. Raina's voice came out clearly on the phone. Coulson, it's been a long time since we last met. It was still Alice Barr. Raina, wearing a decent printed dress, had eyes that seemed to be able to speak. Her smiles and frowns were amazing. She was an angel beauty. Raina, you haven't been caught by our shield yet, or have you officially joined Hydra? Coulson's eyes were full of ridicule. It was Raina who led the Centipede project, and to be honest, Coulson admired Raina's ability. She was just an ordinary person, but she was able to deal with Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D. without being discovered. Hydra. No, Hydra is a thing of the past, isn't it? Once the mystery is exposed, it becomes ordinary and boring, and I don't want to be that kind of person. Raina gently shook the red wine in her hand. As for Hydra, Raina simply disdained it. Or, after learning that these people were just a group of ordinary people, Raina lost interest in cooperating from the bottom of her heart. You called me, you don't want to chat, do you? Coulson looked at Agent Koenig, who was tracking Raina's phone call on the device in front of him, but it would take some time, which was why Coulson was willing to chat with Raina. Let me guess, you must be tracking me down now, but I'm sorry to disappoint you. My boss told me to tell you not to interfere in the affairs of Paxson Park, otherwise you will bear the consequences at your own risk. A smile appeared on Lena's face, and she hung up the phone after saying this. In Paxson Park, after a series of chases and surveillance, Carl Creel finally came here. At the same time, before Carl Creel came, the Hydra organization had paid enough compensation, some extremely rare diamonds. There were pedestrians all around, but Carl Creel still saw Sunil Bakshi, a senior Hydra executive sitting on a bench. In the Airbus base, Coulson was also on high alert. In Paxson Park, Coulson had already arranged his men. Agent May, Sky, Trip, and Hunter had been lying in ambush all around, waiting for Coulson's order to catch Carl Creel and Sunil Bakshi in one fell swoop. Mr. Bakshi, I have brought the 084 you asked for. Carrying the box, Carl Creel sat opposite Hydra agent Bakshi, turned his back to Bakshi, and handed the box to him. Very good, obedience will earn you rewards, well done, Mr. Clear. Bakshi smiled, his eyes full of excitement. This was what Mr. Whitehall wanted, and being able to complete Mr. Whitehall's task was the greatest honor for Bakshi. Very good, now is the time to act. Seeing that Bakshi had relaxed his vigilance because of the box in Krill's hand, Coulson picked up the communicator and directly issued an order to capture him. Receive. Got it. Sky and May walked out of the crowd, pointed their guns at Carl Creel, and pulled the trigger. Bang, bang. In the park, gunshots rang out, and the passers-by were in chaos. Carl Creel's body on the park bench turned directly into wood. The bullets hit Creel's body, but only brought out some wooden wedges. K, it's S.H.I.E.L.D., those damn, haunting guys. Agent Bakshi's face was gloomy. He directly picked up the briefcase in front of him, and ordered Creel to stop the S.H.I.E.L.D. people. Hey, boss, it's time for me to see your power. Just as Agent Bakshi was about to leave Paxson Park, a man and a woman appeared in front of him. Bakshi was very familiar with the woman, who was once John Garrett's subordinate, Rena, while the other man was covered in a robe and hood, and his face could not be seen at all. As you wish, beautiful little flower, Ms. Rena. Allens glanced at Rena beside him, a smile appeared on his lips, his tone was very gentlemanly, and he raised his right hand at the same time. Chapter 31. Bang, bang, bang. On the bench in Paxton Park, the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, led by Agent May, were advancing step by step. The guns in their hands suppressed Carl Creel, who had turned into a stone man, so that he could not raise his head. Sky, go after Bakshi, we must not let the obelisk fall into the hands of Hydra. May, dressed in combat uniform, held a gun in both hands, with a cold face, staring at Carl Creel, and reminded Sky beside him. Got it, May. Sky nodded, fired several shots from the pistol in his hand, and then quickly chased after Bakshi's escape route. Who are you? At this time, Agent Bakshi looked at the mysterious man in front of him with a look of shock. Bakshi didn't take Reena seriously. Even though he hadn't been on the field for a long time, he still had excellent agent skills. As you wish, beautiful little flower, Ms. Reena. Facing Bakshi's question, Alan's eyes were cold, his right hand was raised, and his mental power was released like a tide, and Bakshi's body was directly imprisoned in midair. Cool, well, you are indeed different. Looking at Alan's using telekinesis to easily imprison Bakshi in midair, Reena's eyes flashed with enthusiasm, and a hint of excitement appeared on her face. I am Mr. Whitehall's man from Hydra. Bakshi looked at Alan's in horror, his whole body seemed to be grabbed by an invisible hand, unable to move at all. Oh, Whitehall. Don't worry, he will come to hell to find you soon. Alan's eyes were cold, and his telekinesis burst out instantly. Bakshi, who was imprisoned in midair, instantly exploded into a ball of blood mist, deader than dead. Open. Are you kidding me? As soon as Sky appeared here, he saw Bakshi exploded into a blood mist in the air. Although he had experienced many deaths, this way still filled Sky's heart with fear, so much so that his voice trembled. Sky, what happened? Coulson, who had been closely following the battle, obviously heard Sky's extremely shocked voice. While asking, Coulson checked the surveillance footage around Sky. Oh, my God. When he saw the surveillance footage clearly, even the calm Coulson couldn't help but scream. The scene in front of him was really too shocking. In front of Sky, a figure wearing a black robe and a hood, just clenched his right hand, and Hydra's senior agent Bakshi exploded into a blood mist. This was simply unscientific. This is even more powerful than that guy Krill. It's even more unscientific. Behind Coulson, Fitz, the chief scientist of S.H.I.E.L.D., was also amazed. He had a lot to say in his heart, but due to limitations and speech disorders, he could only simply express his shock. Bang, bang, bang. Sky was shocked and pulled the trigger directly. What Alan's did now seemed too crazy to Sky. Ding, ding, ding. Not surprisingly, the bullets stopped in front of Alan's, and the illusion that enveloped Alan's disappeared. Instead, it was Paxson Park. The environment changed instantly. The originally ordinary Paxson Park turned into an alien battlefield. The surrounding debris and broken spacecraft all showed that a very tragic battle had taken place here. Sky could even vaguely see the figures of the Avengers from the blurry corpses on the ground. Damn it, what on earth is going on? At this time, only Carl Creel and the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents were left in Paxton Park, but without exception, they all looked around in shock. This is magic. Including Coulson and Fitz in the S.H.I.E.L.D. Airbus base, all looked at the surveillance screen in front of them with shock. The previously quiet Paxton Park turned into an alien battlefield in the blink of an eye. This shocked Coulson and Fitz's brains to the point of crashing. It's really amazing, this is different. Even Lena beside Alan's was looking at Alan's with a fanatical face, her heart was excited, and her right fist was clenched excitedly. Whoosh. Alan's didn't care about the shock of the people around him. He hooked his right finger and the box in the air appeared next to Lena. Under Alan's telekinesis, the box opened, revealing the obelisk inside. Reena, pick it up. The obelisk slowly floated in front of Reena, and at the same time, Alan's calm voice sounded. Reena, who had originally had a fanatical expression, was suddenly stunned. Reena had seen ordinary people touching the obelisk, so she seemed a little afraid of the obelisk. Don't be afraid. Don't you always believe that you are different? Then pick it up. Aaron's voice was low and magical. For Aaron's, this was not only to satisfy Reena's wish, but also a test. Picking up the obelisk meant that Reena trusted him. No, Reena, don't be bewitched by this guy. Sky kept his gun pointed at Alan's, his tone full of worry for Reena. Although the two were enemies, Sky didn't want a familiar person to die in front of him. That's right, I am different from the others. After a brief struggle, Reena resolutely picked up the obelisk. When Reena touched the obelisk, strange red symbols suddenly lit up on the entire obelisk. Damn it, Reena, you're crazy. Sky frowned, worried about Reena's safety and shocked by her madness. Bang, bang, bang. After a brief moment of shock, Melinda decisively pulled the trigger at Alan's. Trip and Lance Hunter woke up as if from a dream and pulled the trigger right after her. For a moment, there was a loud sound of gunfire. Telekinesis controls objects. Alan's eyes were deep, and he turned his right hand. Whether it was the bullet or Melinda, Sky and others, they were all dragged into the air by the invisible telekinesis and floated in the air, as if they had lost gravity. Shit, is this guy the same? No matter what, let's get out of here first. Looking at all the SHIELD agents floating in the air, Carl Creel's eyes flashed with shock and fear, and he ran away quickly. It seems a little too late to escape now. Allens pointed his right hand at the fleeing Carl Creel, and his telekinesis surged out. Carl Creel flew back at an even faster speed and landed right in Allens' open right hand. Well, Carl Creel, let me see how your ability works. At this time, Allens showed a devilish smile, stretched out his left index finger, and his telekinesis turned into a sharp knife, approaching Carl Creel's temple little by little. Shit, what are you going to do, you damn bitch? Feeling a piercing chill on his forehead, Carl Creel was completely panicked. He roared while his body turned into a special diamond structure. He struggled hard, but he was unable to fight against Allens' telekinesis. Sizzle, sizzle. The telekinesis struck the diamond's forehead, and a sharp cutting sound was heard. Under Allens' telekinesis, even the solid diamond began to break slowly. Chapter 32. Please, don't do this, please. The solid diamond broke inch by inch, and Clear's body collapsed. After the diamond was shattered, Clear began to wail in pain, his voice full of pleading. Crack, crack. Under Allens' telekinetic cutting, even the special diamonds were broken into pieces. However, even if the diamond's skull was broken, not a drop of blood flowed from Clear's body. It's really an interesting superpower, but that's all. Allens' eyes were full of amusement, and he slightly hooked his right index finger, and the obelisk in Raina's hand instantly flew out of her hand and appeared in front of Krill. Damn, what on earth does this guy want to do? The SHIELD agents floating in the air all widened their eyes at this moment, but because their bodies were within the range of telekinesis, they could not move at all, and they could only watch Allens' actions. Fitz, check who this guy is. I have a feeling that a new enemy has appeared in SHIELD. In the SHIELD Airbus base, Coulson's face was also faintly sweating, and his eyes were very cautious. The sudden appearance of the mysterious man in front of him made Coulson more solemn than ever before. Beside Coulson, Fitz quickly controlled the search program in the base, implanted Aaron's face into the information database, and began to match. Found it. Allens, Asian, 27 years old, had a very ordinary resume 27 years ago, but after July 2007, Allens disappeared. Looking at the densely packed information displayed on the screen in front of him, Fitz quickly reported. Allens. Did he disappear in 2007? This file was ordinary and could not explain the power Allens showed in the picture, which made Coulson frown. What shocked Coulson even more was the situation displayed on the picture. Carl Creel struggled frantically, but after being strengthened by the super soldier serum, Allens' telekinesis was also strengthened. With Carl Creel's strength, he could not break free from Allens' telekinesis. The severe pain on his forehead made Carl Creel wail frantically, but what frightened Carl Creel even more was the obelisk that appeared in front of him. No, please, don't do this, please. Carl Creel's eyes were full of pleading, but Allens, standing opposite him, was not moved at all. The ticking sound in his mind had already started, just like the law of the operation of all things, making Allens a little intoxicated. Sneak. Under Allens' telekinesis, the obelisk directly touched Carl Creel's right arm. Carl Creel's superpower could absorb and transform any substance it touched, allowing his body to acquire the properties of that substance. When the obelisk touched Creel's arm, because he had the genes of the Inhumans in his body, Creel was unable to resist the power of the obelisk. Voila! A light like the tide appeared on his body, and then it turned into rubber, stone, wood, and the substances that had been absorbed appeared on Carl Creel's body. Finally, his right arm turned into rubber and wrapped the obelisk, and Creel's body returned to a human body. The genes of the Inhumans will make you strong, but they are also the root of your bondage. The smile on Allens' face changed from a smile to an excited smile, and finally a little crazy, and the index finger of his left hand began to cut with telekinesis again. As Allens cut with telekinesis, Krill wailed again, but this time, without any obstruction, Allens easily cut open Krill's skull. Quote. The SHIELD agent floating in the air couldn't believe his eyes. The mysterious man in front of him actually cut open Krill's skull, exposing his white brain to the air. Let me see how your superpower works. Allens' left index finger gently brushed over the wrinkles of Clear's brain, as if he was appreciating a work of art or studying a complex machine. His index finger gently brushed over the left brain and stopped at a brain circuit node in the lower half of the right brain. Found it. A smile appeared on the corner of Alan's mouth. Although it looked like a devil's smile to the SHIELD agent, Alan didn't care at all. He clapped his hands, stood up, and turned to look at Lena. "Beautiful little flower, don't you want to see my power? Then let me show you." A smile appeared on the corner of Alan's mouth, and he opened his right hand. Starting from the fingertips of Alan's right hand, a circle of ripples spread to Alan's whole body, and Alan's body instantly turned into a diamond shape. "Carl Creel's ability to absorb and transform any substance it touches is now mine." Alan's placed the diamond palm in front of his eyes, calmly admiring the colorful light refracted by the diamond from the sunlight, leaned forward slightly, and pressed his right hand on the ground. Swish, swish, swish. As Alan's moved, starting from the ground where his right palm touched, his entire right hand turned into a concrete structure. Alan's punched the ground, and the entire ground instantly sank. Using the superpower of seeing through the laws of operation of all things, Alan's finally got his second superpower, and it was the superpower of absorbing and transforming people. What made Alan's most satisfied was that from Carl Creel's brain, Alan saw the substances that Carl Creel had absorbed, which allowed Alan's to directly obtain all the forms that Creel had transformed. "It's incredible. It's really beautiful." Standing behind Alan's, Raina looked at Alan's in amazement. The talent Alan's showed was incredible, breaking Raina's limitations and making her realize what is truly different. "Don't move, don't move." Just as Raina and the others were amazed and horrified, the Hydra agents finally arrived. Dozens of Hydra agents came to the alien battlefield shrouded by Alan's illusion, and pointed their guns at Alan's. "It's just right, let me test my new abilities." A murderous look flashed across Aaron's eyes. No matter if these guys were from SHIELD or Hydra, since they dared to stop him, these idiots were courting their own death. Chapter 33. Prepare for action. In the secret base of Hydra, the leader Daniel Whitehall had a gloomy face. The obelisk that was about to be obtained was intercepted by a mysterious guy. This was something Whitehall, who had been chasing the obelisk all his life, could not forgive. Action, action. In Paxson Park, Hydra troop carriers stopped one after another, and fully armed Hydra soldiers came out from the troop carriers and quickly surrounded the entire Paxson Park. "Kneel down and raise your hands, now." A Hydra agent's eyes were cold, and all the soldiers pointed their guns at Alan's. The SHIELD agents floating in the sky made these Hydras dare not approach Alan's rashly. "Hydra, it's just right, I can use you to test my new ability." Alan's waved his right hand slightly, and the SHIELD agent in the sky instantly flew backwards and hit the flower bed behind him. "Sky, May, Trip, how are you?" Coulson, who was also monitoring the area, looked at Sky and the others who were knocked out by Alan's with a worried look on his face. "Ahem, Coulson, we're fine." Melinda stood up from the flower bed in a panic, put her right hand on her ear and responded. Behind Melinda, Sky, Lance Hunter, and Trip all stood up. "This guy, let us go." Trip showed a trace of fear on his face, and cast his eyes to Alan's who was surrounded by Hydra agents, and his tone was full of relief. "No, he is ignoring us." Compared to Trip's relief, Sky's eyes were shining. In the confrontation just now, Sky saw the disregard in Alan's eyes, as if he and other SHIELD agents were as humble and insignificant as ants at his feet. "Coulson, what should we do next?" "Melinda is worthy of being the legendary Knight of SHIELD." After a brief adjustment, she recovered, pulled out a pistol from her waist, and pointed it at the back of Aaron's. "Let the Hydra guys test the mysterious Mr. Alan's for now." Coulson's solemn voice sounded in the headset, and May, who received the order, nodded to Sky and others, and quietly retreated, but her eyes were always fixed on Alan's movements. "The guys who are in the way have been cleared. Next, let me try to absorb the power of people." Alan's moved his wrist slightly, without using telekinesis, and simply walked towards a Hydra. As Alan's moved, the Hydra soldiers immediately opened fire. Concrete form. As Alan's walked, his entire body turned into a concrete form like a road. Bullets hit Alan's body, leaving only a trace of white marks. Boom. Alan's punched the ground. Under the concrete form, Alan's possessed terrifying power. Under the huge power, the concrete road under his feet instantly collapsed, and the 4 Hydra soldiers in front of Alan's were immediately blown away by the huge power of the ground. "Damn it, grenades ready." Erevis, the Hydra agent in charge of this command, showed a trace of cold sweat on his face, took a grenade launcher directly, pulled the trigger, and a grenade dragged the flames and attacked Alan's. Sneak. Alan's walked to a decorative rock and touched it with his right hand. His whole body instantly turned into granite texture. The heavy force made the ground under Alan's feet collapse. Boom! The grenade hit Alan's body, but only a ball of sparks exploded. Not to mention hurting Alan's, even the granite fragments on Alan's skin were not knocked off. He strode towards the two Hydra soldiers, and his heavy footsteps made the ground shake slightly. The panicked Hydra soldiers, bullets hit Alan's body, making a series of tinkling sounds. Puff, puff. He simply walked between the two Hydra soldiers, holding one in each hand, and exerted a little force, and the two Hydra soldiers suddenly collided with each other, and their heads exploded like watermelons. Bang, bang, bang. Ordinary guns had no effect on Alan's at all. On the contrary, in the rock form, every time Alan's attacked, a Hydra soldier would be knocked away. Shit, this guy has Carl Creel's superpowers. Whitehall, who was far away in the Hydra base, punched the table. Whitehall was very familiar with Carl Creel's superpowers. Creel could transform his molecular structure by contacting matter, which was very powerful. But Whitehall found that this mysterious guy's ability to absorb people was even more powerful. Fitz, can the gadget you developed to suppress Creel control Alan's? In the Airbus base of S.H.I.E.L.D., Coulson also frowned. He had long discovered that Alan's absorption and transformation ability was stronger than Carl Creel's. No, my stuff is based on the special genes in Creel's body. The superpower developed to offset Alan's DNA is completely different from Creel's, and it can't be offset. Fitz couldn't believe what he saw. As the chief scientist of S.H.I.E.L.D., Fitz had never realized that technology at this time was so powerless. Bang, bang, bang. In Paxson Park, Alan simply transformed into a rock form. These Hydra soldiers were like watermelons, and Alan's easily crushed them. At Lance's feet, there were Hydra soldiers lying on the ground. That's so cool, this is the talent I want to see most, Sky. You are not the only one who can find your family. I, Reyna, have also found my family. At this time, Reyna, who was hiding in the distance, had her eyes shining. She was completely captured by the superpowers displayed by Alan's. Reyna, who had always been pursuing uniqueness, regarded Alan's as her partner. Moreover, Reyna firmly believed that as long as she followed Alan's, she would transform and become an angel with wings. I don't know when it started, but the original Hydra soldiers had been completely eliminated by Alan's. It didn't even take a minute. Alan's walked in front of Reyna and stretched out his right hand. Let's go, beautiful little flower. Let's continue to look for the next one. Alan's face was full of gentlemanly smiles, and Lena was completely attracted by Alan's smile at this time, and couldn't help but put her right hand in Alan's palm. Swish. The entire alien battlefield illusion disappeared in an instant, replaced by the ordinary Paxson Park. Alan's and Reyna disappeared, and both S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra fell silent. Chapter 34. Inside the S.H.I.E.L.D. Airbus base, Sky and the others have all returned. Although they were not injured, everyone looked unhappy. It was because the talent that Aarons had shown before was too powerful. He could easily defeat the current S.H.I.E.L.D. with just one hand. I know you are all feeling very heavy-hearted, and so am I, but we are S.H.I.E.L.D., and we can't avoid dealing with these people with extraordinary talents, so cheer up. Coulson clapped his hands, attracting everyone's attention, and at the same time, he tapped the table with his right hand, and a three-dimensional projection was clearly displayed in the center of the table. Alan's disappeared in 2007. I have notified the technical department to track him down, but there is no information. It seems that he appeared in 2014 in an instant. This person is very mysterious. Coulson tapped the screen with his right hand, and the whole screen quickly expanded, showing Alan's appearance clearly, and rows of data were listed on Alan's left. Fitz, you come and explain it to everyone. Coulson nodded to Fitz from the science team. Fitz frowned and kept clicking on the virtual keyboard in front of him. Alan's. This mysterious guy, initially estimated. Preliminary estimates show that he has the ability to control objects with his mind. Moreover, according to data simulation, this kind of mind-controlled object can easily reach tens of tons. In simple terms. Fitz tried hard to search for the poor vocabulary in his mind, and there was also a hint of fear on his face. Fitz wanted to find simple and easy to understand words to explain this ability. Is it like the Hulk can easily lift a building? Alfonso Mack, who is also the chief mechanical engineer of S.H.I.E.L.D., took over Fitz's words with a serious tone. That's right, according to the simulation data, this kind of telekinesis can easily reach tens of tons of force. Fitz nodded quickly, confirming Mike's words, which also caused Melinda, Sky and others to feel turbulent in their hearts. What is the purpose of this Alan's? According to the surveillance footage, in addition to telekinesis, he also has the ability to create illusions. Fitz analyzed the sudden change in the environment in the monitor and found that a special energy covered the Paxson Park. Coulson moved the screen to the left, revealing the alien battlefield changed by Alan's, and introduced it. This Alan seems to be able to deprive other superpowers of their talents. Moreover, Alan's gives me the feeling. It's like a hunter hunting. Sky wanted to see Carl Creel, whose skull was separated by Alan's, and frowned. Regardless of his abilities, Alan's is a very dangerous person, and he is determined to kill. He is definitely not someone who can be persuaded. Melinda had experienced the worst Bahrain Island Supergirl riot, so she is wary of all superpowered people. Sky is right. This is the direction of our next investigation. We clearly caught the voice of Alan's before he disappeared. Coulson tapped the screen with his right hand, and the scene of Paxson Park reappeared on the screen. When Alan's disappeared, the voice of, "Let's find the next one," was clearly heard. Aaron's is extremely dangerous. We need to restart the cloaking device on the Quinjet. Coulson glanced at Fitz and directly made the next plan. He ordered May, Sky and others to go to a Hydra base to obtain the cloaking core code, which made Fitz feel a little disappointed. Aaron's and Rena didn't know the situation in the Airbus base of S.H.I.E.L.D. Even if they knew, they didn't care. Aaron's and Rena were sitting on a passenger plane at this time, heading to Casablanca, Morocco. As for the passenger plane, Rena used her connections to show herself in front of Aaron's. After seeing Aaron's powerful strength, Rena decided that following Aaron's was her destiny. Sitting in the comfortable first-class cabin, Aaron's he looked out the window, at the white clouds outside, and began to ponder. Aaron's knew that in 2014, when the Ultron incident broke out, Baron Strucker used Loki's Mind Scepter to obtain 2 mutants in Sokovia. Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch and Boss Ultron were his real targets. Of course, Aaron's would not let go of the superpowers of these Inhumans. However, there were still a few months before the Ultron incident. Aaron's had enough time to get any superpowers he wanted. Moreover, Aaron's had a hunch that this time his opponent was not the old Captain America, but the entire Avengers. It has been 3 days since I came to 2014, and I almost forgot that I still have one lottery to draw. All of a sudden, Alan slapped his forehead. Only now did Alan's remember that he still had one lottery to draw. Ding, congratulations on completing the mission, escaping Captain America's pursuit once, and being rewarded with a random draw. Ding, do you want to draw the lottery? The mechanical prompt sound of the Hero Rise system appeared in Alan's mind, which made Alan smile and started to draw superpowers directly. Ding, extraction completed, obtain the superpowers of Haitians. Ding, new mission issued, clear or control the Hydra organization. Single quote. A mechanical sound rang in Alan's mind, and at the same time, the DNA in Alan's body and a circuit in his brain changed. Although Alan's own strength did not increase, Alan's knew that he had gained the superpowers of the Haitians. Haitians have the ability to block superpowers and delete memories. Haitians have a special physique that can release brain waves that block all superpowers. Haitians also have the ability to clear memories, and can selectively clear the target's memory, or even delete all memories. What an unexpected surprise. Alan's opened his eyes and smiled. Lena, who was beside him, was always paying attention to Alan's movements. When Alan smiled, Lena looked over. Boss, what happened? Reina's eyes were so charming that she came close to Alan's like a cat, her eyes full of excitement and her tone made people unable to stop. Beautiful little flower, our next journey will be very smooth. Alan's glanced at Reina, who was as well behaved as a cat, and patted Reina's shoulder gently, his eyes full of mystery and depth, full of unique and attractive charm. Chapter 35. In 2023, New York City has been reduced to ruins. All the Avengers have gathered. Around them, the circular portals have not disappeared. Thanos' Dark Order army has just been turned into dust. The Dark Temple spaceship is still across the sky, blocking the sun. It seems that dawn has not yet arrived. In the center of the battlefield, the Avengers led by Captain America Rogers surrounded Iron Man Tony Stark, one of the 3 giants of the Avengers. Everyone's eyes are full of sadness and heaviness. Tony, don't die, don't die. In front of Tony, Tony's wife Pepper Potts' eyes were full of tears. Seeing Tony, who was seriously injured and dying after snapping his fingers, Potts was extremely sad. Posy. Ahem, don't cry, I am the Iron Man who saved the world, Tony Stark. Ahem, take good care of our daughter, Morgan. Stretching out his left hand with difficulty, stroking his wife's face, Tony Stark looked exhausted. He was too tired. The previous battle with Thanos had already stimulated his potential. After snapping his fingers with the Infinity Gauntlet, all the potential in Tony Stark's body had been burned out. He was now, I have run out of energy and there is no possibility of survival. Ahem, hey, magician, is this the only one you saw? Tony turned his head with difficulty and looked at Doctor Strange. He still cared a lot about what Doctor Strange said before. Among tens of millions of futures, there is only one future where the Avengers win. Agamotto, time reversal. Doctor Strange did not answer, but sat cross-legged on the ground. The time stone in the Infinity Gauntlet returned to Doctor Strange under the traction of Doctor Strange's magic. At the same time, Doctor Strange activated the time stone's time reversal ability and entered the timeline. Shish. Only a second later, Doctor Strange spat out a mouthful of blood, opened his eyes in horror, and looked extremely solemn. The timeline has changed. The first words Doctor Strange said attracted the attention of all the Avengers, including Tony Stark, who was on the verge of death. The timeline has changed. Doctor Strange, what does this mean? Captain America Rogers turned to look at Doctor Strange, his eyes full of confusion. For Rogers, this war would be completely over as long as the 6 Infinity Stones were sent back to the past. Rogers even thought that when he finally sent the Space Stone back, he would settle in the past and fulfill his promise to his lover. The past has changed. A powerful and terrifying guy has wiped out all of our Avengers. The Avengers of the past have been annihilated. We didn't make it to 2023. The Sorcerer Supreme, Doctor Strange, looked extremely solemn, but what he said made all the Avengers stagnate. Etc. Doctor Strange, didn't you say that changing the past would not affect the future? Hulk. Dr. Banner frowned, obviously disagreeing with Doctor Strange's words. According to the theory of quantum teleportation, even if the past is changed, it cannot affect the future. Noi 1/4 Onultha, the past cannot be changed, the Infinity Stones can. According to the future I saw with Agamotto, in 2014, the Mind Stone was controlled by a terrifying guy, and the Avengers of the past era were all wiped out. No one could stop him. Doctor Strange's face was more solemn than ever before, and he spoke very quickly, but all the Avengers present were puzzled, and obviously could not understand what Doctor Strange said. I understand. Someone in the past has taken control of the Mind Stone, causing changes in the past timeline. If we can't stop this guy who is destroying the timeline, maybe in 5 seconds. This guy will come to our future. Hulk. Dr. Banner is worthy of being the top scientist. After a brief thought, he understood what Doctor Strange said. That's right, we all know that when we travel back to the past, no matter what happens, it will only take 5 seconds to come back. But according to the theory of quantum entanglement, if we can't stop the past from changing, maybe in the next 5 seconds, a guy more terrifying than Thanos will come. Doctor Strange's eyes are more solemn than ever before, even when facing Dormammu, the Lord of the Dark Dimension, he has never been so serious. Who is changing the past? Thor, wearing the Thor armor made by Asgard, holding the Stormbreaker in his right hand, asked with lightning flashing in his eyes. Aaron's is changing the past. Doctor Strange's words made everyone look strange. Spider-Man, Black Panther, Hawkeye, Captain Marvel, Guardians of the Galaxy, Scarlet Witch, etc. all had a figure in their minds. Death Star Allens. When they heard the name Allens, they could not help but think of the Death Star Allens, who was under Thanos. If it was the Death Star, although it would be difficult to deal with, the situation would not be that serious. No, the Allens in 2014 is even more terrifying than the Death Star Allens we encountered. Moreover, if we put aside their identities, these two people are completely different people. In 2014, Allen gained terrifying power, enough to destroy the Earth. In the eye of Agamotto, I saw Sokovia fall, the whole Earth fall apart, the seawater rolls back, the land sinks, and in 2014, Aaron's planned the Doomsday Plan, and the whole world was dragged into hell by Aaron's. Doctor Strange's voice was more solemn than ever before, and he told all the Avengers what he saw. We need to stop the Allens and prevent Doomsday from being born. On the battlefield in 2023, a pin drop could be heard, and only Doctor Strange's voice rang out. The sadness on the faces of all the Avengers had not yet subsided, but was once again filled with solemnity. Ahem, Dr. Banner, start our follow-up Plan B. Tony Stark, who was on the verge of death, had a tragic smile on his face, and looked at the Hulk Dr. Banner with difficulty. Swish. Without Tony's reminder, Dr. Banner, the Hulk, took out a small tablet from his pocket, and quickly clicked on the tablet with his thick fingers. A stream of information instantly turned into a quantum stream and disappeared in 2023. Ding, ding. In 2014, due to the conflict between S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra, the InSight project failed completely, both sides suffered heavy losses, and the world power began to reshuffle. In an underground base in Los Angeles, a particle stream suddenly appeared in front of a wrinkled old man, and the old man suddenly opened his eyes. That guy Allens is really starting to influence the future. Save Quake, save the world. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 36. In 2014, in a repair shop in Casablanca, Morocco, a man in a white t-shirt was concentrating on repairing a radio. Next to the man, the owner of the repair shop was full of admiration. "Hey, Jill, your skills are really great, stay and help me, your repair skills are comparable to those of professional repair engineers." The owner of the repair shop, with a look of expectation in his eyes, walked to the opposite side of Jill and sat down, stretched out his hand and patted Jill on the shoulder, and said in a serious tone, "Boss, of course I want to stay, but. Jill showed a helpless expression on his face. For a person with superpowers like himself, wanting a peaceful life is really a luxury. It has been 3 months since he fled to Morocco. After enjoying 3 months of peaceful time, Gil is already very satisfied." Bang! Just as the repair shop owner was about to say something, a gunshot rang out, and the repair shop owner's forehead was instantly pierced by a bullet, and he fell straight to the ground. Damn, these lingering hydras. Jill's face darkened completely. The owner of the repair shop was very kind to him, but now he died because of him, which made Jill angry. Kneel down and give up resistance. A team of fully armed Hydra soldiers entered the repair shop carefully, pointing their guns at Jill, but their eyes were filled with fear. "Hey, man, give up resistance, we are just following orders, relax man, we won't hurt you." A Hydra soldier leader walked to the opposite side of Jill and sat down, his eyes flashing with fear, as if it was not him and others who surrounded Jill, but Jill who surrounded him, and raised his hands to show his sincerity. "Liar, you Hydra bastards are all liars." However, even if the Hydra soldier leader was sincere, Jill, who had completely seen through the face of Hydra, did not believe anything Hydra said. Crack, crack. With both hands on the table, a terrifying cold current instantly froze the tabletop, and in the blink of an eye, froze the Hydra soldier leader across the table. Fire, fire. The remaining Hydra soldiers' eyes flashed with fear and their voices were panicked. However, before they could pull the trigger, they were frozen by the cold current released by Jill's hands. Son of bitch. Jill cursed fiercely and quickly turned around to pack his things. Although he killed these Hydra soldiers, Jill knew that Hydra was everywhere and he could not fight against them with his own strength. Paw, paw, paw. Just as Jill was packing up and preparing to run away, a round of applause broke out in the small repair shop, which made Jill's body stiffen for a moment, and he quickly turned around. Donnie Gill, a genius who once studied at the S.H.I.E.L.D. Academy, has an IQ comparable to that of Gemma Simmons and Leo fits in S.H.I.E.L.D. During a blizzard project, an experiment went wrong and he gained the ability to create ice. Opposite Donnie Gill, Aarons, who was dressed in a black robe and looked like someone from the Matrix, looked very handsome. Next to Aarons was Rena, who was as well behaved as a kitten. Boss, be careful, Gill can release ultra-low temperatures instantly, and he was once a supernatural killer of Hydra. Rena's eyes were full of fear. She once learned about Donnie Gill from John Garrett's intelligence, so she was very clear about Donnie Gill's abilities. Are you also from Hydra? Donnie Gill looked at Allens as if he were a dead man, raised his hands, and tried to activate his superpowers. However, what horrified Donnie Gill was that the freezing power that had been invincible before could not be released at all, as if he had lost his superpowers. It seems that you have chosen to resist. Allens's face was cold. After obtaining the superpowers of the Haitians, Allens himself was a superpower blocker. Not to mention Jill, even if the leader of the Inhumans, Hive, came, he would be slaughtered by Allens. Ahem, my body can't move. Donnie Gill suddenly felt that his whole body was bound by an invisible force. At the same time, Allens on the opposite side grabbed with his right hand and raised his left index finger. Wait, wait, no matter who you are, no matter what power you are, I am willing to surrender. Looking at the index finger of Alan's left hand, Donnie Gill felt a sharp pain in his forehead, and the feeling of his heart being clenched made Donnie Gill start to beg for mercy. Swish, swish, swish. However, in the face of Donnie Gill's plea for mercy, Alan's remained unmoved. He used his left index finger to steadily cut open Donnie Gill's skull from left to right, exposing his brain. It started. Although the scene was a bit bloody, Raina's eyes were shining. She had long tied her fate to Alan's. Seeing Alan's become strong again, she even felt a little happy in her heart. Found it. Alan squatted down and searched for a special brain circuit in Donnie Gill's brain. Finally, his left index finger stopped at the first brain groove circuit in the left hemisphere. Shish, shish, shish. As the index finger stopped, an ice-blue cold current suddenly emerged from the palm of Alan's right hand. The cold current swept through, and the ground under his feet was quickly frozen. Very good, I have mastered the freezing ability. A smile appeared on Alan's lips, he stood up, waved his right hand, and Donnie Gill's body was instantly frozen into ice. Boss, you have become stronger again. Raina's eyes were full of excitement. She looked at Alan's with admiration. Her tone was indescribably excited. Her pair of captivating eyes looked at Alan's intoxicatedly. It's not enough, I need to be stronger. Alan's directly crossed the ice under his feet, raised his right hand, and a bottle of Coke flew into Alan's hand. Alan's held the Coke, and the Coke in the bottle instantly began to cool down. Ice-cold Coke, would you like a bottle? Glancing at Rena, Alan's threw the Coke in his hand to Rena. After Rena took the Coke, Alan's cast the illusion on himself, and his whole body changed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Alan's used the illusion to transform into Donnie Gill. Let's go, Rena, let's go to the Hydra base at the port. Transformed into Donnie Gill, Alan's reached out and patted the dazed Reina's shoulder, reminding her. Chapter 37. A giant cruise ship is moored at the port of Casablanca, Morocco. Inside the cruise ship, researchers in white scientific coats are busy in rooms full of science fiction. In the center of the cruise ship, in a high-tech laboratory, a dozen scientists in white coats are looking at the big screen in front of them with horrified and solemn expressions. On the big screen, a man in a retro suit and gold-rimmed glasses is looking at the entire laboratory with an indifferent face. Hi Claw. A dozen scientists looked at the figure that appeared on the screen in front of them, raised their right fists and shouted loudly. This cruise ship is completely Hydra's high-tech weapons laboratory. It develops very sophisticated energy weapons and the most terrifying advanced concept weapon that Howard Stark, the former chief scientist of S.H.I.E.L.D., once sealed, the fission bomb. The dozen scientists here are the top scientific research talents specially recruited by Hydra from all over the world. Each of them is the top talent in their respective fields, but at this moment, these people are trembling in front of the figure in front of them, and the expressions on their faces are extremely fanatical. The action team will arrive in 5 minutes, open the helipad. On a Quinjet in the sky, Daniel Whitehall had a cold expression on his face, took off his glasses and wiped them, and gave orders in a steady voice. Quick, open the helipad on top of the cruise ship. After hearing Whitehall's words, a scientist showed a serious expression on his face, picked up a phone in front of him, and gave an order directly. Sneak. Following the scientist's order, a group of scientists in the control room of the cruise ship quickly operated, and the helipad at the top of the cruise ship opened. At the same time, Whitehall's Quinjet landed in the sky, and a team of Hydra soldiers quickly walked out of the Quinjet. Whitehall finally walked out of the Quinjet. Next to Whitehall, a beautiful woman in a white coat and long golden wavy hair followed closely behind. From the beautiful woman's eyes, one could still see a trace of panic and uneasiness. Miss Gemma Simmons, I'll leave the task of persuading Donnie Gill to you. As a scientist in the Hydra Research Department, please don't let me down. Whitehall rolled his glasses and stared at Gemma Simmons like a venomous snake. His tone seemed calm, but to Simmons, it was icy cold. Don't worry, Mr. Whitehall, Jill and I were once friends. I believe that if I convince her, Jill will give up her resistance. Simmons was terrified, but he remained calm on the surface. However, Whitehall, who had lived for many years, could still see the stiffness in Simmons' expression. You too, protect Miss Simmons. Pointing at the two Hydra soldiers, Whitehall's eyes were deep and gloomy. Long before, Whitehall suspected that Miss Gemma Simmons might be a spy sent by S.H.I.E.L.D. According to the Hydra's way of doing things, she should have been captured and brainwashed directly. However, because Simmons knew Jill, a person with superpowers was much more useful than a scientist, so Whitehall let Simmons go for the time being. Harrington Adonis tracked Donnie Gill. Turning around and looking at a bald man in a suit beside him, Whitehall frowned slightly, paused for a second, and gave the order. Sunil Bakshi used to be Whitehall's most loyal subordinate, but now he was killed by a mysterious guy. Whitehall could only use Harrington, who seemed to have no brains at all. After giving the order, Whitehall walked into the control center of the cruise ship, where rows of data kept appearing. In the center, a map of Morocco was displayed. On the map, a red dot appeared and was quickly enlarged. That guy Donnie Gill is actually planning to fall into a trap. Looking at the picture displayed on the screen in front of him, Whitehall frowned slightly. In the picture, Donnie Gill was walking towards the port, and next to Donnie Gill was Rena, who Whitehall had once paid attention to. At this time, at the port of Casablanca, Allens and Rena, who had transformed into Donnie Gill using illusion, also appeared here. Looking at the huge cruise ship, Allens showed a cold smile on his face. Mr. Allens, do we really want to go against Hydra? Their power is now all over the world. Lena followed Allens with a hint of fear in her eyes. Although Lena recognized Allens' strength, after all, the opponent this time was the notorious and fierce Hydra. The Hydra is just a grasshopper in autumn, and it won't be able to jump for long. What's more, I have never thought of going against the Hydra. Allens' words made Rena's eyes reveal a trace of doubt. Rena found that she couldn't see through Mr. Allens at all. What I want is to control the entire Hydra. Allens walked to the port with a cold face, took a look at the cruise ship in front of him, and grabbed the anchor of the cruise ship with his right hand. Crack, crack. As Allens pressed his right hand on the entire anchor was frozen at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the freezing speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, the entire sea area under the cruise ship was frozen. Donnie Gill's freezing ability is really good, and I can feel that this freezing ability is still increasing. Allens clenched his fist, and a stream of cold air was released from his fist, and the moisture in the surrounding air, all of them began to condense into ice. The ice spread along Allens' right hand and covered his entire arm, making Allens' right arm look like ice crystals, crystal clear. Sir, Donnie Gill has frozen the entire cruise ship in the water. In the cruise ship control room, Agent Harrington walked up to Whitehall. Although his tone was cold, his face showed a look of surprise. Very good, the more powerful the superpower is, the more beneficial it will be to Hydra. Only by obeying can you get the reward. Whitehall's face was not surprised, but full of surprise. In Whitehall's eyes, Donnie Gill had long been a slave under the control of Hydra. As long as he approached Donnie Gill, he could activate the control command in Donnie Gill's mind. Ms. Simmons, it's time to show me your sincerity. Whitehall turned his head and looked at Simmons, his eyes narrowed, his tone still seemed calm, but Simmons subconsciously trembled twice. Chapter 38. Shit, God, bless me, let me leave here alive. On the cruise ship, the fear in Gemma Simmons' eyes flashed away, followed by two Hydra soldiers who were eyeing her covetously. Simmons, who was restricted from moving freely, could only pray that God would bless her to survive. Ms. Simmons, keep going. A Hydra soldier's eyes became dangerous, and the muzzle of his gun was pointed at Simmons intentionally or unintentionally. If Simmons made any unusual movement, he would shoot her directly. I understand. I hope that Donnie Gill still recognizes me. Simmons' face became even stiffer as he was pointed at by a gun. However, due to the situation, Simmons could only continue to move forward towards the cabin. At this time, Allens also walked into the cabin of the cruise ship. As soon as he entered the cabin, he met two teams of Hydra soldiers. Sir, Donnie Gill is here. A Hydra soldier put his right hand to his ear and reported through the built-in earphone. At the same time, these Hydra soldiers pointed their guns at Allens and pulled the trigger without saying anything. Bang, bang, bang. Bullets quickly attacked Allens. Allens' eyes were cold, and his right hand pressed on a metal hatch. He activated his superpowers and his whole body turned into metal of the same material. Ding, ding, ding. One bullet after another hit Allens' body, and only a series of crisp ding-dong sounds were heard. After these bullets hit Allens' metal body, they instantly turned into iron ingots and fell directly to the ground. Freeze. Allens raised his metal right hand, and a terrifying cold current instantly swept through the cabin corridor. Whether it was metal or Hydra soldiers, they were all frozen by Allens' superpowers. Boom. Behind Alan's, a group of Hydra soldiers had surrounded the place. One of the soldiers directly picked up a rocket launcher and fired an RPG at Alan's. Telekinesis controls objects. Alan's entire body returned to its original state, and he raised his left hand. His terrifying telekinesis burst out like a tide, and the RPG with a tail flame paused for a moment, then changed direction 180 degrees and rushed into the group of Hydra's soldiers at a faster speed. Boom! A dozen soldiers were blown away by the RPG. A ball of fire appeared on the deck, and the whole deck was in chaos. Caw, caw, caw. Alan's hooked his left finger, and all the weapons on the Hydra soldiers on the deck flew into the air, and the muzzles of the guns turned and aimed at the Hydra soldiers. Oh, F*******K. The pupils of more than 20 Hydra soldiers shrank into pinholes, and they uttered a curse. Then, in front of their horrified gazes, the triggers of weapons in the air were pulled, and these people were shot like sieves. Mr. Whitehall, the 2 teams of soldiers we sent out were all killed. In the control room, Harrington reported his losses with a horrified look on his face. This guy is definitely not Donnie Gill. Having seen the fight on the scene through the monitoring equipment a long time ago, Whitehall's face was gloomy at this time, and his usually calm eyes could not help but reveal a trace of shock at this time. Sir, Simmons is getting close to the area where Donnie Gill is. A Hydra scientist behind him controlled the screen in front of him, and the screen clearly showed the picture and location of Gemma Simmons. Harrington, distribute the split bombs to the Hydra fighters. Whitehall said nothing, glanced at his adjutant, and gave the order. Sir, with all due respect, the split bomb is still in the experimental stage and cannot be. Before the scientist could finish his words, he saw a black muzzle and Whitehall's venomous gaze. I said, equip my soldiers with the split bombs. Whitehall looked at the scientist in front of him coldly, and said word by word, his tone was bone-chillingly cold. Yes, 1/4 Essier. The scientist was shaking like a sieve, his face covered with sweat. He turned around and ordered the scientists around him to go to the laboratory to get the fission bomb that was still in the development stage. Very good, let's see if Miss Gemma can buy us some time. Whitehall turned and looked at the screen, his eyes flashing with complex light. As early as when Donnie Gill used other superpowers, Whitehall knew that he was definitely not facing the frozen Gill. Phew, God bless you. Walking to the corner of the cabin, Simmons took a deep breath, prayed secretly, and then resolutely walked out of the corner. Hey, Jill, do you still recognize me? I'm Gemma Simmons. As soon as Simmons walked out of the corner, he saw Donnie Gill standing in the cabin with an angry face. Around the cabin were frozen Hydra warriors, which made Simmons look a little scared. Gemma, are you also sent by Hydra to arrest me? After seeing Simmons, the anger on Donnie Gill's face subsided for a while, and he began to question Simmons. Very good, that's it, Miss Simmons, do as I say. Seeing Donnie Gill start talking to Simmons in the picture, Whitehall showed a cold smile on his face and began to guide Simmons. Obey and you will be rewarded. If you resist, you will lose yourself. Give up resistance, Hydra is your final destination. Whitehall taught Simmons word by word, but vaguely, Whitehall felt that something was wrong with Donnie Gill in the picture, but he couldn't tell what it was. Behind Whitehall, Agent Harrington had already left, and even took a few scientists away. Only Whitehall and 2 scientists who were controlling the monitoring screen were left in the entire control room. Pong! A dull sound rang out from behind Whitehall, and a large hole instantly appeared in the hatch made of special alloy, and a figure walked out of the hole. Shit, how did you get here? Whitehall looked at the person who suddenly broke into the control room, his eyes narrowed, with shock and a hint of fear on his face. What you see with your eyes may not be true. Alan strode into the control room and raised his hand slightly. The 2 scientists sitting there instantly turned into ice cubes. Nice to meet you, Mr. Whitehall. A cold smile appeared on the corner of Alan's mouth. As early as when he killed the Hydra soldiers, Alan had released an illusion to deceive everyone, including the monitoring equipment. His real body walked into the control room so openly, as if he was in an empty space. Chapter 39. Shit, you are Alan's. In the control room of the Hydra cruise ship experimental base, Daniel Whitehall, the leader of Hydra, looked at Alan's with a gloomy face. After seeing Alan's true face, Whitehall knew Alan's identity. After all, like S.H.I.E.L.D., Hydra also paid attention to that battle and investigated Alan's identity. Nice to meet you, Mr. Whitehall. Alan's walked up to Whitehall and ignored the pistol in Whitehall's hand. I see, is this your purpose? Using superpowers to cause chaos, and then find me in the chaos, I have to say, you are very strong and very smart. Although Whitehall has lived for decades, apart from his vitality, he is just an ordinary person, even weaker than a Hydra soldier. This is why Whitehall is eager to uncover the secret of the obelisk. How about joining Hydra? Become one of us and you will have supreme power, status, money, and beautiful women at your fingertips. Whitehall calmly put his hands behind his back, bewitching Allens with words, and quietly took out a disc-shaped bomb from his waist. Hydra is now the most powerful organization in the world. If you join it, I promise you will become the next leader and have a bright future. Seeing that Allens didn't notice his little action, Whitehall's surprise flashed in his eyes, and his tone became more serious. He tapped the split bomb with his right hand, and the split bomb suddenly glowed. Imagine standing at the top of the world, overlooking the whole world. It will be wonderful, finally. Go to hell. Whitehall approached Allens as he spoke. At the end of his words, Whitehall's face was ferocious, like a venomous snake spitting out its tongue, and he stabbed the fission bomb in his hand into Allens' body. Ding, ding. The center of the split bomb flashed with light, and then Allens' whole body instantly began to petrify, and his entire body tissue was decomposed and turned into powder and scattered on the ground. I just praised you for your brain, but now it seems that you are just an idiot whose wisdom is blinded by your own power. Clapping his hands, Whitehall's face regained its previous calmness, as if he had everything planned out and had a good grasp of it. It's a pretty good split bomb, isn't it, Mr. Whitehall? A familiar voice sounded behind Whitehall, who had just breathed a sigh of relief, and his whole body froze in an instant. Wah-la-la. In Whitehall's eyes, a screen-like picture appeared, and then disappeared, revealing Allens' figure. The person Whitehall had killed before was the Adjutant Harrington who had just entered the control room. You bitch, what on earth did you do? Whitehall's face was completely horrified, and he pulled the trigger repeatedly with his right hand, but without exception, all the bullets stopped in front of Allens. Mr. Whitehall, didn't you do this? Spreading his hands, Allens' eyes turned cold, and with a wave of his right hand, Whitehall's entire body flew directly into Allens' palm. Now, the game time is over. He grabbed Whitehall's neck with his right hand and lifted him up with one hand. The weakened super soldier serum allowed Allens to easily beat this guy who was good at hiding his head and showing his tail even with his physical strength. He hooked his left index finger, and the telekinesis control object burst out. The dagger on Whitehall's tactical boots instantly flew into the air, and the dagger was aimed at Whitehall's heart. You can't do this. Only I can unlock the secrets of the obelisk. Only I. This time, Whitehall felt the coming of death thoroughly. All the scheming and Hydra leaders were completely abandoned by Whitehall. Now, he was just a poor creature struggling to death. Tisk. Allens didn't even wait for Whitehall to finish his words, and he stabbed the dagger into Whitehall's heart, killing him completely. I don't need the secret of the obelisk, I need the entire inhuman race. Allens' eyes were cold and ruthless, and he threw away Whitehall. The illusion that enveloped the entire cruise ship faded, and Allens' body turned into Whitehall's appearance. Beautiful little flower, Miss Reyna, you can come out now. Looking towards the door, Allens smiled and said softly. Mr. Allens. Lena, who had been looking out the door, came in with a fanatical look on her face. Her eyes became even more alluring and she looked as beautiful as an angel. No, call me Mr. Whitehall now, I am the leader of Hydra now. A smile appeared on Allens' face. Under the illusion, even the surveillance camera could only see the appearance of Daniel Whitehall, the leader of Hydra. Even under Allens' deliberate control, even the voice could not be distinguished. Nice to meet you, Mr. Whitehall. Hi Claw. Reyna also smiled, and her devilish body moved closer to Allens, performing a Hydra salute. Nice to meet you, Agent Reyna. Allens was amused by Reyna. He had been nervous these days because of the future, but now he relaxed because of Reyna. Now, stop the action, all personnel, go to the deck for inspection. With a wave of his right hand, the communicator on Whitehall's body appeared in Allens' hand. Turning on the communicator, Allens' voice turned into Whitehall's calm and majestic voice. I repeat, the crisis has been resolved, stop the action immediately and go to the deck for inspection. Allens' order was issued, and all the Hydra soldiers stopped their actions and gathered on the deck. Let's go, Agent Reyna, let's take over this Hydra. Allens' right hand gently brushed across Reyna's face, his eyes flashing with deep light, and he strode towards the deck. At this time, all the Hydra soldiers and scientists on the entire deck gathered together, looking at Whitehall, who was walking over in silence, and all lowered their heads. Obey, then there will be rewards. Donnie Gill has been eliminated by Agent Lena, and this mission is over. However, as far as I know, we have been infiltrated by SHIELD agents. Now, it is time for you to offer your loyalty. On the deck, Alan's transformed into Whitehall, as calm as usual, with a calm but intimidating tone. Hi Claw. There was no need for Alan's to control it. As long as Alan's kept imagining himself as Whitehall, he could directly control Hydra. After all, the structure of the Hydra organization was that the leader would gain the loyalty of all Hydra. Chapter 40. In a basement in New York, a doctor in a white coat is treating the gunshot wounds of two gangsters. The doctor looks unshaven, with deep eye sockets and bloodshot eyes. He doesn't look like a doctor, but more like a patient. This man is Sky's biological father, Mr. Hyde, Calvin Zabo Johnson, a top biological scientist in medical drug research who is in the process of drug withdrawal. However, since falling in love with Jiang from the Inhumans, Calvin has given up his identity as a scientist and worked as a clinic doctor. A series of misfortunes that followed made Calvin's mind crazy and distorted. The death of his lover and the disappearance of his daughter completely changed Calvin, turning him into a terrifying murderer who called himself Mr. Hyde. However, Calvin has been in a good mood recently because he finally found his daughter, and the day when father and daughter meet is not far away. In order to leave a good impression on his daughter, Calvin gave up taking the chemical drugs he developed and is now in the process of withdrawal. Hey, doctor, if you don't fix my brother's gunshot wound quickly, I swear, I will use the gun in my hand to blow your dog head off. The black brother in hip-hop clothes next to him saw that this private surgeon was distracted, and immediately put the gun to Calvin's forehead. Hey, calm down, man, calm down, this is good for you and your brother's condition. When the gun was pointed at him, Calvin actually showed an excited smile, and the smile was even a little twisted. He actually began to feel a throbbing desire for blood in his heart, which made Calvin scratch his hair hard and warned. Mr. Hyde, I'm sorry, my brother is new here and doesn't know your rules. A white man lying on the bed, his face pale, but his eyes full of apology, this man knew that the doctor in front of him seemed to be a person who should not be provoked. Look, this is what a patient should look like. Hey, little lamb, don't worry, I have treated your wounds. You just need to rest for a few days. Calvin suppressed his inner throbbing, stretched out his hand to slap the pistol in front of him, and began to organize his medical instruments, including Western instruments and Eastern acupuncture. Just as Calvin was about to walk out of the basement, he saw a familiar face from the corner of his eye, which made Calvin's suppressed anger burst out instantly. Lena, my lovely little sweetheart, I finally see you again. Calvin walked to the door angrily and opened it. A beautiful woman in a fashionable black dress appeared in the basement, but Calvin had no time to appreciate the beauty. He was angry in his heart. Calvin. It was Raina who had followed Alan's who appeared in the basement. At this time, Raina looked at Calvin with complicated eyes. Call me Mr. Hyde. You said you would bring my daughter here, you said. You said so. Like an angry lion, Calvin's right arm was bulging with veins, and he directly grabbed Raina's neck and lifted her up. The huge force made Raina unable to breathe. Sky is in SHIELD, there is no way you can get close to her. If you want your daughter back, let me go. I can't breathe. Being strangled by the neck, Raina had difficulty breathing, her face began to turn red, and her voice began to become intermittent, but her tone was unprecedentedly confident. I don't know when Raina started to transform. My daughter, her name is Daisy. His face turned red with anger, like a beast that was ready to eat its prey. Calvin looked at the confidence in Raina's eyes, roared, and let Raina go. Ahem. Mr. Whitehall wants to see you. After coughing a few times, Raina's breathing finally became smooth. She looked up at the furious Calvin, her adoptive father, with mixed feelings. However, deep down, Raina had already determined that Alan's was her destiny, so after only a moment's hesitation, Raina told him what Alan's had told her. Whitehall. Daniel Whitehall. Good, very good. Hearing the familiar name, Calvin's face became even more distorted, and his voice sounded like it was squeezed out of the netherworld. However, in order to find his daughter, Calvin did not mind cooperating with his enemy. Why are you working with Whitehall, Raina, you bitch? Although he didn't mind cooperating with his enemies, Calvin was extremely angry that Raina had joined Hydra. I knew I was different from others since I was a child. I naively thought that I would become beautiful after I found the obelisk. But until I met the boss, I realized that my vision was too short-sighted. Following the boss, I have the opportunity to become a real angel. Lena's eyes were shining, and her right hand gently touched her face. Her tone was unprecedentedly gentle and enthusiastic. Looking at Lena's expression, Calvin's eyes were still full of anger, but he didn't say anything. Instead, he quickly packed his things and took the medical box in his hands. "Hey you idiot, my brother." The black man who had been silent in the basement could no longer control his temper when he saw Calvin was about to leave. He said angrily, "Wow, look, I almost forgot, there are 2 little sweethearts in this basement." Calvin, who was originally planning to leave, smiled with excitement and picked up a surgical knife from the table with his right hand. Calvin had a crazy smile on his face. In the black man's confused look, he directly pierced the black man's neck with the scalpel in his hand. A stream of blood gushed out and splashed on Calvin's twisted face. "Oh, help me, don't kill me." The remaining white man was horrified, but he was facing Calvin, a murderer and a terrifying devil who was different from ordinary people. Tisk, this guy Calvin is even crazier. Lena looked at Calvin, who had turned into a murderer, with fear. A trace of cold sweat appeared on her face, and she quietly put the medicine bottle in her hand into her pocket. This was the medicine bottle that Lena had secretly stolen from the excited Calvin before. For this kind of thing, Lena has long been familiar with it. Can this medicine bottle really transform me temporarily? Lena touched the medicine bottle with her right hand, a trace of doubt flashed across her eyes, and then she left the basement without paying attention to Calvin Szabo's crazy behavior. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audiobook to stay updated with our latest stories, and never miss out on a great listen.